Okay, can we take our seats? We're ready to start our meeting? All right, the city attorney or Mr. Dodge, let's bring our meeting to order.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. The item beginning at 6 o'clock, as required by state law, references the city's review of the millage proposal and well as the budget proposal for the next fiscal year. The budget public hearing item is 22-0632, and it is the first public hearing on adopting a tentative budget and proposed millage rate for the fiscal year 2022 through 2023 for the city of Pembroke Pines, Florida. For the record, the purpose of this obligation is to recompute and to publicly announce the proposed operating millage rate of 5.6690, which is 9.06% above the rollback millage rate of 5.1979, and the debt service millage rate of 0.3835, as well as to amend and to adopt the tentative budget for the general fund, the utility fund, and all other funds of the city of Pembroke Pines, and to invite the public to speak regarding the proposed millage and budget. This evening, Mayor and Commission, this is the budget and millage public hearing. There will be two following ordinances that will be required to be read as well, but this is the public hearing portion for the purposes of the statute. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, anybody would like to speak on this item?
Mayor, will we have the manager make a presentation?
Sorry?
Will the manager
You have to speak into your mic.
Will the manager be making a presentation for the public so they may have questions?
What?
Will the manager be making a presentation?
I still didn't hear.
City manager, can you put up your presentation for the public, please?
For the what? I'm not very, we're on the agenda there now. So let's go with the agenda.
All right. Mayor and Commission, for an explanation of the proposed budget for fiscal year 22-23, what I will be presenting to you this evening is all the overview of all the funds, the general fund highlights, the road and bridge highlights, and the utility fund highlights. As far as the general fund is concerned, the total budget being proposed for the next fiscal year is $485,173,441. All funds are balanced as required by Florida law. The proposed budget has been published online since August the 1st. Prior to that, we've had workshop meetings. Since the budget was published, only the Road and Bridge Fund was increased by $110,000 for a noise wall on Palm Avenue. So these are all of the funds within our budget for this next fiscal year. The advertised operating millage is 5.6690, and it will generate approximately $86.7 million in tax revenues. This rate requires 4 affirmative votes to be adopted. The current millage represents an increase in property tax revenues of $6.7 million. The debt service millage rate is 0.3835, and that will generate approximately $5.9 million for debt payments. This revenue is recorded in the debt service fund. The total combined advertised millage rate is 6.0525, which is 0.0324, or 5% lower than the combined millage rate for the current fiscal year, and represents the 7th consecutive year of a decrease. And the total taxable value increased by 9.51%. Our total, all of our properties within the city have a taxable value of $16.1 billion. And each mill represents $15,295,700. You can see historically, we present this to you, that in 2013 to 14, the total taxable value in millions was $8.9 million, and moving forward 10 years, today it is 16.1. There was a period of time where that millage rate was higher prior to that, but with the recession, it had decreased, and now it has continued on the incline. The total millage rate has decreased every year for the last 10 years since fiscal year 2015-16. And you can see that via the chart that the millage rate as combined has gone down. It was at 6.2385. We're now down at 6.0525. We have 53,399 residential properties. About 71% of them are people who are homesteaded, who live here year-round. Their property tax increase will be below the 3% as a result of the decrease in the city's aggregate millage. We have 2,655 residential properties that have a zero taxable value. The proposed 22-23 fire assessment rates are less than the advertised rates due to a slight reduction in the fire expenditure budget. So we advertised $29,480,821. It ended up, once we finalized our proposed budget, to be $434,130. So that was a decrease of about $46,000. The fire assessment rates, going back to 2013, it was $252.71. It's being proposed at $352.16. That's a $100 increase over a 10-year period. So it averages about an increase of $10 per year. The general fund highlights, the police department will add a total of 3 new city positions, 1 new crime scene technician, and 2 police service aides that function as our code compliance officers. The major capital expenditures include $2.3 million for police. We have $1.8 million for 37 police vehicles, which represent vehicles that are needed for additional police officers as well as replacement of older vehicles. We have $250,000 set aside for ballistic shields and $216,000 for laptops and radios. The fire department has $2.4 million in their capital budget, $1.3 million for 2 fire engine trucks, $350,000 for a rescue truck, and $550,000 for 55 radios.
2.2 million, City Manager.
I said something incorrectly, I'm sorry.
You didn't say it correctly, it says 2.4, it's 2.2.
Okay. Major capital expenditures include $1.7 million for roof replacements at various buildings, city buildings throughout the city, $1.5 million for parks, which is playground equipment, impact windows for some of our facilities, and new air AC units. We have $595,000 in IT modernization of our network infrastructure, our cloud migration and server upgrades, $430,000 for 18 stationary generators that may be needed at any time of an emergency, and $225,000 for fencing at the east and west disaster debris sites. The Road and Bridge Fund, which is a separate independent fund from the general fund, has a budget of $9.6 million. The major projects that are proposed in the next fiscal year for road resurfacing are in the areas of Chapel Trail, Pembroke Lakes, and Pembroke from Douglas to Palm. $465,000 for westbound right turn lane at 145th Avenue and Pembroke Road. $110,000 for installation of an 8-foot noise wall on Palm Avenue. $50,000 for guardrail projects, and $75,000 for speed feedback signs and pedestrian crossing signs. The utility fund is an enterprise fund, and that fund represents $73.1 million. The capital budget is $9.7 million, of which the balance is operating. $5.6 million for Pines Village Phase 2, the water main improvements. $200,000 for power electrical rehabilitation of our generator replacement, $130,000 for a roof replacement, and $3.6 million for other capital items, which includes lift station replacements, sewer lining, headworks, influent channel renovations. As of today, we have received a total of 13 calls from the residents who had questions regarding their notice that they received from the property appraiser. The three of them were for fire increase assessment. People called about that. The increase in taxes, we had about 5 questions on that. Understanding the trim notice, there was 1, and other questions regarding billing, which brought our total up to 13 calls based upon the notice that went to all the residents in the city. The Fire Protection Assessment Hearing is a special meeting which is being conducted next Monday evening, September 12th at 5:15 p.m., where the commission would set that rate. And the final hearing on the budget on second and final reading is scheduled for September 21st at 6 p.m. here in these chambers. That's basically, Mayor and Commission, the overview of the proposed budget. Are there any questions?
Mr. Dunn, any questions for the commission? Any questions for the audience?
Mayor, I'd like to ask the city manager a couple questions, please.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to ask the city manager a couple questions.
I don't know whether it's me or I can't hear you.
Okay.
Anybody else can hear him? I can hear him. Anybody else?
A little bit, not real clear.
Okay, so I don't want to yell, but okay, no problem. City manager, go back to the slide for the debris fencing, if you don't mind. What are the 2 sites established for the debris site, and is this a one-time capital investment, or is this something that we can anticipate on an annual basis?
This would be a one-time expenditure. The east is at the Howard Foreman site, and the west disaster site, Steve, is at what location again? Yes, that's on Sterling Road is the 40 acres that we own.
Right, okay, so if, and we certainly don't want a storm, but if we had a storm, could we charge this fencing as a part of the FEMA collection expense that we had incurred?
I don't believe so. We can certainly look into it. I don't know if that's a reimbursable. The reimbursables for a debris site is actually for the material that's brought there and the removal of it to a permanent site.
All right, so this debris would be something that the trucks would collect and dump? And is that what we're doing our accounting at?
No, what would happen is on a hurricane, as you know, we have a separate contract with haulers that would bring all of the hurricane debris to the east site for the eastern part of the city, and they would bring all of the other hurricane debris to the west disaster site, and it's separated based on vegetation and other kind of bulk. And then it's separated and has to be weighed, and then it's disposed of at that time.
And does FEMA give us a price for tonnage, or is it a set price that all cities get, or does it depend upon the volume? How does that work?
It's based upon the price of our bid for bringing it in, and there's a price for disposal. FEMA makes the determination whether that's a reasonable number, and they set those prices. They're not, I believe, preset.
That's my understanding. So if there's a way that we can capture, because we have to do these bids every so many years, if there's a way that we could ask these haulers to bid that would include the cost recovery of the fencing, I think that would make sense. I can't imagine a taxpayer of the city seeing $225,000 on a what if when we have playgrounds and fields and stuff like that that could use the money now that we can actually enjoy. So that would be my really only comment on that one line item. I'm ecstatic that we're doing something on Palm Avenue. Way to go for that noise wall. That's fantastic. With respect to our first responders, let me just say that they will always have my support. I always ask, do they have enough? And when they say yes, I said, are you sure you still have enough? Because I want to continue to support their efforts. I know that we have certainly had our plethora of vehicles that are basically at the end of normal service life. So I'm glad that we're replacing those. My concern, and certainly we can't forecast next year, but my concern is twofold. Our residents are experiencing economic strain just like the public sector is. If there's a way that we can find relief in some way, I think it will go a long way to show that we're trying to do our part. Right now, City Manager, this is not, unfortunately, we have no control over it, but there's a large percentage of our city that have been notified that their homeowners insurance is being canceled, and they're going to be placed into an unknown. It's like they don't know what their scratch-off ticket is going to be when they open up the envelope to find out how much they're going to be paying. Our city needs to remain a city that is forward-thinking and affordable. Right now, the cost of insurance and the increase in property taxes are getting to the point that Pembroke Pines is becoming more and more challenging to raise a family. So I want to thank you and your staff for everything that you've done in this proposed budget. I'm still looking for ways between now and second reading to find potential savings for our residents. The IT department, certainly I'm hoping that we have better execution from our vendors in next fiscal cycle, so we don't have the strains that, quite frankly, staff was blindsided by when it came to the billing last year. But certainly, we are making the investment in IT. I like the fact that we're making capital improvement with these roofs. Certainly, they are well beyond 20 years old. So kudos to the Public Works for keeping things going as far as they can get them. So overall, Mayor, those are my comments. I look forward to hearing from the rest of my colleagues.
Good comments, Mr. Dodge. I agree. Keeping this rate good for the residents, and we keep our lowest rate, millage, of almost any city. We're pretty low. So Commissioner Cyple, you want to say something?
No, Mayor, no.
Oh, I got
I
your
didn't.
light
I'm sorry,
here. All right, anybody else? All right, let's go to BH1, City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Without objection, BH1 follows the public hearing that was just conducted by the Mayor and Commission for the public to comment as provided for by state law.
Point of order, I'm sorry. Have we had roll call yet?
No. We're not,
Do we need to do roll call
no,
yet?
it's to the meeting. This is a budget meeting.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. There will be a vote actually on each, but to the extent possible, Mayor, it would be useful just to take a quick roll to make sure that when items referencing the first reading of both items will be a record for those who were present.
Well, I apologize. I see it right there. I guess my eyes
Yep,
have gone through.
it is on top.
City Clerk, call the roll,
Thank you,
please.
Mayor.
Commissioner Castillo? Here. Commissioner Good?
Here.
Vice Mayor Schwartz? Here. Commissioner Seifel? Mayor Ordus?
Here.
City Manager Dodge?
Sorry about that.
Here.
City Attorney Gorin?
I'm here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may continue, BH1 then relates to the actual first reading of the budget for the millage ordinance. It reads as follows. It's a motion to adopt proposed ordinance number 2022-09 on first reading. It is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, establishing the operating millage rate of 5.6690 or $5.6690 per $1,000 of taxable assessed property value, which is 9.06% above the rollback rate of 5.1979 for the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, pursuant to the 2022-2023 city budget in accordance with Chapter 200 of the Florida statutes, and establishing the debt service millage rate of 0.3835 for debt service on the general obligation bonds approved by the electorate, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and finally, providing for an effective date. First reading on the item referenced as the city's millage rate as required by Section 200.065 of the Florida statutes. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Thank you, City Attorney. Any comments on BH1, Commission? Audience? Close the public hearing. Go ahead, City Attorney.
Mayor, you'll need to actually vote on each of these because once you vote on them, then they'll be followed through.
Let's go to.
I make the motion.
City Clerk, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I make the motion, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Motion to, the item that was just written.
Motion to approve on the millage.
To approve, yes.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Call a roll, please, City Clerk.
Commissioner Seifel?
Yes.
Commissioner Good?
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Here, yes.
Motion passes.
And for the record, Mayor, the item was passed on first reading. The law requires we notify the public and those that are otherwise tuned into the meeting that the second and final reading on this item will be scheduled for Wednesday, September the 21st at 6 o'clock p.m. Next item up, Mayor, is BH number 2, which is the budget ordinance, if I may read, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a motion to adopt proposed ordinance number 2022-10 on first reading. It is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 and adopting the 5-year capital improvement program for the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, in accordance with Section 5.08 of the City Charter of the City of Pembroke Pines, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and finally, providing for an effective date. BH number 2 on the floor for consideration. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Moved by Commissioner Castillo, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Seifel. Discussion. Audience? Hearing none, call a roll, please.
Commissioner Castillo? Yes. Commissioner Seifel?
Yes.
Commissioner Good?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And for the record, Mayor and Commission, as required by state law, there'll be a second and final public hearing on the budget, BH2, on Wednesday, September 21, 2022, in these chambers at 6 o'clock p.m., correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
6 o'clock p.m. It'll be open to the public, and there'll be also access to the meeting at that time for both millage and budget. Thank you, Mayor and Commission. That would end the required readings of both, for first reading on both the millage and the budget ordinances in accordance with state law.
Thank you very much. We're into our regular meeting now. Roll call, City Clerk.
Commissioner Castillo? Yes. Commissioner Good?
I am here.
Vice Mayor Schwartz?
Here.
Commissioner Seifel?
I'm here.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
City Manager Dodge?
Here.
City Attorney Gorin?
I'm here.
We have a quorum.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. I have to give is Ms. Terrell here for her proclamation? Ryan Terrell? Okay, when she comes in. All right? Then let's go, items pulled from the agenda. City Clerk.
Mayor, item 12 was pulled from the agenda by administration.
Very good. Any items at the request of the public?
Mayor, we have 11 items, 11 forms for items requested to be spoken at the request of the public, and that is on the topic of Fletcher Park and BP Academy. We have an additional item at the request of the public for the soccer program. And we also have 2 requests to speak, but this is for item 20, and will be called at the appropriate time, Mayor.
Okay.
Mr.
Commissioner
Mayor?
Order report.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I just may make an announcement, I believe the clerk said there were about 11 people wishing to speak about the Fletcher Park. The next meeting, September 21st, is the meeting where this will be an agenda item which will be voted upon. You still have an opportunity to speak. However, this item will thoroughly be discussed at that time. Ms. Sorensen will be making a presentation and making her recommendation at that time, and the commission will be making their decision at that time.
Okay?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, on that
Go ahead.
item? Yes, sir. Just on that item alone. Does the staff have any update in regards to the intentions for Fletcher Park that we can be aware of? I don't think it would be appropriate that we wait until the very last minute before we have an understanding of what the recommendation is going to be versus what is it that the community is desiring. So I think I'd like to hear a little bit of that in advance of the meeting for when this item comes before us.
Mr. Mayor, in response to Commissioner Good, yes, that will be provided to you as a commission, and we'll also provide it to those people who made the inquiry. They also still have the same opportunity of speaking with Ms. Sorensen prior to that meeting, but it won't be a secret when it's published. It'll come out prior to that. So probably toward the middle of next week, that information will be available.
Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner?
Thank you, Mayor. I hear what's being said, and I understand we're kind of in a situation, but, and we're going to be given a report, a proposal, a recommendation from Ms. Sorensen. But we have people that are here this evening, and I would like to at least, maybe not if it's not all 11 of you all, but if you could pick a couple of spokespersons that would highlight perhaps what your concerns or what your wishes are, so that in fact, Ms. Sorensen and the rest of us would have that knowledge ahead of time to take into consideration when final product is delivered to us. I think that would be a respectful and reasonable way to go forward with this, and that would sort of be my ask, if everyone would agree to that.
I agree. City Attorney, are we okay with that?
Well, they are on the list for public hearing, so they can speak if they wish.
No, I understand.
Right, no, they
I
can't.
understand it.
But I was just asking if
I
they could
understand.
consider,
I just want to make
Trying to get someone.
not 11.
Quiet.
their choice.
Minute?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm not gonna go, I was gonna pull a couple items, but I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go with the Fletcher Park. How many people want to speak? You heard the Vice Mayor, can you codify?
Maybe if they could get 3 or 4.
If you're all speaking at the same time, I don't wanna tell you not to speak, but, all right, let's try this. The first one, come up, speak on it. We'll open the item.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may ask, if we can bypass a little bit of the 3-minute rule, because maybe if you're asking for just a few people to speak, maybe we want to give them a little extra time to get the full flavor onto this DS.
And I agree with that, except we got an item I want to pull that's gonna be long and lengthy, and another item after that that's gonna be long. So I gotta try to keep it
All right,
under
but-
order. Go ahead.
Respect.
Hit that button, please. Speak button.
Testing. Okay,
That's
good.
it. Name and address, please.
My name is Jennifer Messina. My address is 2450 Southwest 80th Terrace in Miramar. I'm the rec coordinator at Fletcher Park. Fletcher Park has a rec program that I've been running for the last 7 years. I'm also the 8U rec coach. All the players know me as Coach Jen. I've been involved with Fletcher Park as a player, as a parent, as a coach, as a board member, and as a rec coordinator. I played at Fletcher Park from 1984 to 1994. My daughter played there from 2011 to 2022. Every player must start somewhere. It always starts with the rec program. So as a rec coordinator, it is necessary to have a successful season with a rec coordinator. I schedule home and away games, schedule umpires, order trophies, jerseys, make sure the lights are on, fields are lined. Our rec program starts in the fall and spring. We already had opening day, and actually tomorrow is our second opening day at Fletcher Park for our rec season. Fletcher Park provides our community a place where young girls can play softball ages 5 to 15. Our players are given basic techniques and instructions at a pace they feel comfortable with. Our program pushes equality, fairness, and gives each player the same opportunities. I have been developing and building our rec program for the last 7 years. Fletcher started out playing Silver Lakes for rec. I communicate with other rec coordinators, and now I schedule games with Weston, Plantation, Miami Lakes Optimist, and the Rotary Park. Our rec program is continuing to grow with more rec teams that we are playing. Our rec coaches volunteer their time and teach young girls how to play softball. In addition, we teach our players respect, discipline, teamwork, and communication. The rec program starts with me. I meet the parents and the players. I've been doing this for 7 years. I designate the players to their specific age group. I coach the 5 to 8-year-olds. It is a remarkable feeling when players I coach now on the travel team at Fletcher Park are on BP Academy, and some players are now in this audience today. I have molded young minds as they evolve to become travel ball players. This means that I did my job and a young girl learned to love the sport. I've been involved with Fletcher Park for over 20 years. I am grateful that I can give back to our community and continue to inspire young minds. I'm not sure what your decision will be with Fletcher Park, but we have an established rec program, and our BP Academy travel program is striving. We want to proceed and continue running Fletcher Park for rec and travel under BP Academy, under Pines Thunder Rec Program. We are dedicated coaches who care about this park and want our girls to stay playing at Fletcher as BP Academy and not be with West Pines. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Next speaker. How are you tonight? Name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Kristen Nicoletti, and I live at 1614 Mayo Street in Hollywood. I actually began playing at the age of 7 at Pembroke Lakes Optimist as a bandit. I then played there till I was 16 years old. I played a season in Diamond Dusters, and then I finished my travel career as Gold Coast Hurricanes. I graduated from Pembroke Pines Charter High School and went on to play at Miami-Dade and then Indiana Wesleyan. I had a very successful playing career, majored in sports management and sports administration, all wonderful achievements, but nothing compared to the impact my coaches had in my life. My youth coaches gave me lifetime memories, friendships, and disciplined work ethic. My junior coach saved my life. My NEI coach transformed my life spiritually. I then went on to coach at St. Thomas University for 3 years. I led that program through COVID. I gathered 48 athletes in that time to play with us when nobody was playing, and I kept that program going, right? A mentor of mine taught me, if your presence doesn't make an impact, your absence won't matter. And we're here to make a presence and an impact on this community. We just need the chance. The impact a coach can have on one's life is priceless, and now we get to be those coaches for the community, not just for the rec players and travel players. We are women, leading women, and impacting the youth. You don't see a lot of that. You don't. We are created to teach life lessons, develop these athletes' character to act with honesty, integrity, accountability, and courage, something I believe is lacking. We build a champion mindset from the inside out and equip these athletes with skills to play a sport and be a pathway to college, whether as a student athlete or a student. Our softball is our platform, and we just want the opportunity to bring our value, BP Academy's value, passion, and knowledge to those around the Pines community. In just 8 months, we've started with 2 teams and have grown to 3. We have hosted multiple community events to bring family culture to the park. We have done park cleanups. We've hosted free clinics and workouts. We volunteered and coached rec last season. We've done all this because we love it and because we believe in giving back. We've already submitted our bylaws, our articles of incorporation, and sent in our proposal. Our ask is to keep BP Academy at Fletcher to oversee recreation and travel programs and to have the facility agreement for 1 year. Just give us a chance. We are more than competent and capable. We currently already have 36 athletes ready to participate in rec. We already have coaches in line to sign up to be volunteers. We just need to prepare for the facility agreement, and these kids are ready to play. Our proposal was submitted for recreational sports development, community building with events and scholar athlete travel programs. The idea of having just one rec program doesn't give much of an opportunity for parents to decide where their kids want to play, and essentially might be pushing them out of the city to find another program. Giving them 2 programs to see where they fit culturally is at least a chance for families to decide what they believe in. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next. Need your names and address?
Hello, Arena and Richard Okendo, address 12034 Northwest 13th Street.
Thank you, welcome.
Thank you all. As a resident of Pembroke Pines, a city of nearly 200,000, or any city, it's important to have options in the sport of your choice. In Pines, residents can choose from 3 baseball teams, 2 cheerleading squads, 2 football teams, 3 soccer teams. Parents like myself, ourselves, this decision is based on the team's philosophy and the team's culture or the dynamics. If our family is left with only one option for softball for our daughter, who's been playing for Coach Jen since she was 4 or 5, we have 2 options. One is for her not to play. We did that during COVID, she would not play. Or 2, continue playing, but in a neighboring city with a team that aligns with our family values. Fletcher Park is our home. It's not just another city park. We want to stay at Fletcher, play under a team and a league of women that instill the values that aligns with our families.
Thank you.
Thank
Sir?
That's it. We yield our time to whomever else.
Thank you. Next. Anybody else? Okay.
Hello, my name is Lishanti Guillermo, address 1530 Southwest 109th Avenue, Pembroke Pines, 33025.
Hi.
I'm here to talk today a little bit just out of my heart. I am coaching the 10U team and the 18U team, and also coach a little bit at Kaiser University. And I just want to explain a little bit on how having great coaches in my life has helped me a little bit to become the person that I am today. I moved to the state when I was 14 years old, and I left everything that I know and everybody that I knew. Come here not knowing anybody to pursue a future, and most importantly, to become a softball coach. Back home, there isn't much opportunity when it comes to that. And you may ask, why is this so important to me? Personally, I was never the kid to go to school and be excited about it, but sport is what drives me. That is what kept me in class, what kept me focused, and what kept me driven, and who built me to become who I am today. I had great coaches, and I had some not so great. Either way, I learned many lessons for both of them. But I am passionate about coaching. I believe with softball, I can change more lives than I could doing anything else. There is no plan B for me. I'm here today with my 10U team. When I got them, they were turned around or not happy where they were. They came, didn't have much confidence. They didn't really know the game. They walk with their shoulders down. They couldn't speak, couldn't talk to you and look you in the eyes. We worked on that a lot. I don't care if we win, I don't care if we lose. I care if we are good human beings and we can represent ourselves and stand for something, which is what we're doing today, standing for something you believe in. So I just want to ask you guys that if you guys can, if there is any ways that we can email you guys, if there is any ways we can get a little bit more communication with you guys, or get into a position that you guys can understand a little bit more of what is happening at Fletcher Park, and maybe invite you guys to come out and watch the girls practice and see what we are about. Because sometimes it's easy to make a decision quickly, but is that the right decision? Is that what is best for the kids? Are we doing the best thing for the kids to be in the best position to be able to be successful? Can they choose and have, like the parents have mentioned before, 2 choices where maybe BP Academy is not a good fit for them, but West Pine is? Well, maybe West Pine is not a good fit for them, but BP is. So I just want to ask you guys to keep that in mind when you're making your decision. And sometimes having 2 spots is better than 1, because together we can conquer way more than alone. So that's it for me. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening for us. And the kids are depending on you. So
You can email us anytime. In fact, I get a lot of emails.
all righty, thank you.
All right, next speaker. Was that for me? Hello.
Hi. My name is Gabriela Aleman, and I'm a senior, and I'm a part of the 18U team. I'm here to defend our park and our organization, and I'm not only doing this for myself, but to fight for the little girls in our organization so they don't have to go through what we're going through now and what I've been put through. BP Academy has done the absolute most for me. I played at Fletcher Park since I was 12 years old, and not once have I seen the amount of dedication and work these women have done for this park. Not only have they set up various events, but have taken time out of their lives and their jobs to clean up the entire park. I was once under the previous leadership the park was under, and I was mentally abused, constantly surrounded by negativity, being told that I was too weak to go to college and that I need to drop a few pounds at only 13 years old. I ended up losing the game and confidence in myself, and coincidentally, the same leadership is at my high school team. It's devastating to me that I can't play my senior year with my best friend, who I've been catching since I was 10 years old. I had to choose my mental health and playing the sport I love because of what the park used to represent. Coming to BP has completely changed my perspective, not only on the game, but on life and myself. I started gaining my love for the game back. I started growing as a person, and now I have the opportunity to go play college, playing the position that I had been told I was too weak for. These women have done more for me than any other coach has done for me, so please give our organization a chance. That's all I have for you today.
Thank you. Next speaker? Next speaker?
My name is Tiana Damangella. I reside at 10480 Northwest 18th Place. Hello, my name is Tiana. Fletcher Park has always been a great place for softball. Both of my cousins played at that park, and one went on to be the first woman to sign a letter of intent to play college sports at her high school. And the other became a nurse. They both still use the life lessons that softball taught them in their life today. I'm one of those kids who started playing rec in Hollywood. I then got the opportunity to play travel at Fletcher, but because of poor management, we lost the team. And I had to play a game of jump around, going as far away as Coral Springs to play softball, until I found BP Academy. I have finally found a program who teaches their players not only how to play softball, but also how to live life. I strongly believe that this program can bring softball back to its glory days in East Pines, where unlike West Pines, our coaches are leaders and examples, show us how to respect the game of softball and those playing it, not how to make a scene and get thrown out of the tournament in front of 10-year-olds. I've been around that before, and no little kid should have to go through that. This program has the tools to keep up a successful program in this park, given the opportunity. That's all we truly ask. We ask for an opportunity. What I want to leave you with today is that I believe that having two programs will give opportunities to all players, from East Pines to West Pines, from rec to travel girls. This is so that all girls will be able to play the game of softball and learn lessons that one day will make them very good citizens and can be contributors to our community. I just wanted to make this information known. Thank you, and I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you so much. Next speaker. How many more do we have? You want to speak? Okay, try not to say the same thing. We're listening, that's okay. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Valentina Jara, and I play for the 18 team. I have been playing at this park since I was also 12, 13 years old. And playing for BP Academy has taught me so much and made me a bigger person. This group of girls have been working hard for such a long time and have gone through everything together. I want to defend our park to keep this hardworking team together. The BP organization has had a big impact on a big number of girls, including the little girls. I wouldn't want all of our hard work taken away from us.
Oh, thank you. Next speaker. Can you reach that mic?
Pull it down.
Pull it down in front of your mouth. That's perfect. Go ahead, I need your name and address, please.
My name is Kayleen.
and I live at 2051 Northwest 93rd Avenue, Pembroke Pines.
Great.
My name is Kayleen Davlos, and I have been playing softball for 4 years. My coaches at BP Academy are showing me how to be a leader on and off the field. I would like to say if the West Pines Diamond Dusters get the field, they will have 2 parks, and us BP will have no park to play at. That will be unfair, but if you vote for us, BP, it will be fair. BP and the West Pines will both have parks to play at. That's fair to me. I hope this helps you with your decision.
Good job. Okay, next speaker. Is there one more? All right, one more? Okay. Who's spoken before?
So my name is Meredith Santana, 1810 Southwest 91st Avenue. I'm from Miramar. However, I do work in Pembroke Pines, Florida. I am a preschool director, so I'm going to speak a little bit from a different end of it. Going back to, I'm going to touch a little bit on some things. Going back to only having 1 park to choose from, we were previously at West Pines. My daughter aged up and out, and I was told there would not be a team for her. My daughter has a passion for softball, and you can imagine as a parent what it's like to not have a home for her to continue to grow in that passion. I have been in sports in Pembroke Pines for many, many, many years with my son, who is now playing college ball. And like some of these athletes, we've had some really great coaches and some not so great coaches. As a mom and as a preschool director, I think our objective here, everybody sitting on the panel, is to create and foster excellent citizens and people who work for people as they grow up. And I feel like what's being developed and established in Fletcher Park now is a great foundation to continue to grow great citizens that will hopefully grow up and be leaders here in the city and continue to build great character in the youth below them. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I want to emphasize that we are here to help you. We have regulations we have to go by. So at the next commission meeting, we're going to listen and then we're going to vote on whatever comes up before us. Anything else?
Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Cypress.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I want to say to the women also, but especially to the young ladies that stood up and spoke, I'm quite impressed. That's tough to do, and I think you all did a fabulous job with that. So that kudos to you all for that. One thing that bothered me, and this is going to be not just for this group that is here, but it's for any sports activities, any team that we have, any coaches, for any sport that we have in the city, to hear that these young athletes are being given these very negative comments of you're not good enough, someone else made that throw a little better than you did, why aren't you working hard enough? Obviously, you don't really know the game, and whatever the comments, I've heard them all through the years. And so when I hear that come out tonight, I think that for every sport, every activity that we have in the city, any coach, any sport, that is something that we're not going to stand for, absolutely not going to stand for. And I know that that has been something that Ms. Sorensen has paid a lot of attention to through the years, that we are clearly here to upraise, to bring up and to put them on good levels, not to tear them down at any way. It's an encouragement. It's a pat on the back encouragement. It's a, okay, you didn't quite get it this time, but we're going to do it next time because we're going to work together on doing that. So I know that that has been very important, with Ms. Sorensen, but I did want to bring that up because I hate hearing that, and I hate hearing that being stated publicly when we don't respond to it. So, again, I'm hoping that going forward, we're not going to have those kind of comments for any, activity in our city that involves especially our young folks that are, you know, vulnerable at times. So that's just my comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be as brief as possible. 12 years ago, I had an opportunity to join a rec T-ball team. It was one of those things where you go and they say, oh, you're the new guy, do you want a team? So I was an athlete. Had it not been for a car accident, you know, my path may have been different. But I played baseball, and I was really good at it. So I was actually coaching at West PPO, WPPO, while my kids were in diapers. I was out there with coach pitch and that sort of thing. But when both my boys were old enough, they decided one was going to go coach pitch, the other was going to be T-ball. For some reason, I never thought that you would actually have a draft for 6-year-olds. So I went through that process, and I sat in the room with all these coaches, and I saw all the hardware up on the shelves and the motivation that one of the young ladies had mentioned, aggressiveness and that sort of thing, and it just kind of irked me a bit. And I told everyone in the room, I didn't care if I won the game. I just want to make sure that the kids have a good time, learn something, learn the game, and come back and want to continue to play the game. So as a result of my actions, I picked every kid who never played before. And we wound up going undefeated and led the league in runs scored and led the league in the least amount of runs given up. One of them, she was the best second baseman I had. I coached the girl on my T-ball team, and she was never into the softball thing. However, she did make it big time. She's now a dancer. She was featured with J-Lo in the halftime show at the Super Bowl. My shortstop has just been recruited for Rice University. And I got to tell you, the relationships that have been mentioned here tonight, they're meaningful, they're lifelong. The parents, the time that we spent together, we're just a phone call away for each other. It means something. Now, I respect the process. And 3 weeks ago, I guess, when the last time we met here, I was prepared to make a motion, but I felt it was premature. I've been in discussions with city administration, and that process needs to continue. But I like what I'm hearing tonight. This is exactly what I wanted to hear tonight. And I'm looking forward to the 21st. And I wish you guys the best of luck on a beautiful season. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Good?
Yes.
Mr. Good?
Oh.
Sorry, personal one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to point out, you know, a lot of things have been said tonight, and it's really heartwarming to see the passion of the community step up. We're not looking at emails. We're looking at you. And the meaning is powerful. You know, you spoke many times about, you know, the history of Fletcher Park. And I will tell you, there is a rich history in this park for women's softball. I've actually had the opportunity to speak to some of our leaders within our communities that actually grew up through the programs at Fletcher Park. And it's amazing what you do collectively when you have the passion that you're showing tonight. So I see the opportunity to bring that history of Fletcher Park back to where it was before we got got off the rails. And I certainly am in full support of that, and I just want to make it publicly known that what you are doing tonight, you all spoke about a proposal. I'd like to understand more about that proposal. You are asking for a facility use agreement that is within our purview to do. We do it for many other sports organizations. And so, you know, you spoke about having an opportunity to give you a chance, you know, do it for a year or two, to prove yourself. I mean, personally, what I see tonight, I've been proven that you're going to be capable of doing what you said you're going to do. So, again, thank you all for coming tonight and sharing with us in advance what you see the community of Pembroke Pines to be. And we really, I support you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Castillo.
If an outfielder misses a cutoff man, they have to be coached. If an infielder forgets how many outs there are, they need to be coached. If a player is out of position on a play, they need to be coached. They're never ridiculed. That's not sports. That's abuse. If you take somebody aside as a coach and you say, you got to do better on that, you got to hit the cutoff man, you got to think about the play before it happens. You have to see the play. What's going to happen if the ball's hit to my left? What's going to happen if the ball's hit to my right? That's what coaching does. And it should be direct, and it should be memorable. It should be memorable, but it should never be demeaning. You should never be demeaned. So if you feel demeaned on any of our fields, we need to know that. That's not something that happens in youth sports or adult sports. And that's something that our Parks Department should know about and that they should look into. So this is the second time that you're here. I look forward to seeing you again. The item will be on the agenda at the next meeting, and I want to reiterate how impressed I am that you have taken the time to show up and to speak so eloquently, especially the young ladies who came forward. I'm a dad of 2 girls, and it just warms my heart. I had a rush of pride seeing that one in particular speak. It gave me a rush of pride. So thank you for coming, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, so we will see you at the next meeting, the next meeting when we have something from our Assistant Manager, Public Works Director. Let me just say, we're all for you. But we have to do what we have to do for the right thing for the city as well. Sometimes it's not easy. But you convincing tonight, you put on a very convincing show tonight. So we look forward to you at the next meeting. Thank you all for coming. All right, let's go to item 20.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, I'm sorry. There was one more item at the request of the public
I asked if there was any.
pertaining to the soccer program.
Okay.
Mr.
I asked if there was any
Barnett.
more, and nobody raised their hand.
Mr. Scott Barnett.
Waiting for the clerk,
For what?
because I respect her.
I'm running a meeting.
All right. So, and it's appropriate, because what I'm gonna talk about.
Sir, tell us who you are for the record, so the record knows.
Scott Barnett,
Thank you, Scott.
19346 Southwest Fifth
Thank you.
Street. I'm also on the Citizens Budget Council. This is
Can you
your
raise
vote.
that mic a little bit? Yeah.
Start over. Scott Barnett, 19346 Southwest Fifth Street. I'm on the Citizens Budget Council. This is an item regarding the upcoming budget in regards to actually a minor issue, but an important one. If you see this picture up here, what this is a lightning strike at the launch pad up in NASA. That's the Artemis that's waiting for its launch. And obviously, they don't want any harm coming to that rocket, just as we don't want any harm coming to our children. I am a soccer coach. The girls were waiting for me, but I'm here at this meeting. But the other coach is there. And we were at a recent meeting with some of the soccer coaches, and speaking with the staff over at the West Pine Soccer Park, It came to light that there have been issues with lighting at the park, shorting out the park, shorting out the facilities. Also, I believe this, and I don't represent anybody at the staff of the park, this is just my independent as a resident here, but this does appear to be a clear and present risk for the city, a liability risk. And what it's my understanding is there's no lightning rods at the park, and I know there's not any lightning rods in any part of, many parts of the city.
We have horns that go off.
I'm sorry?
Horns that go
Yes,
off.
absolutely. And in fact, I live right by the park, and I hear the horn going off all the time. There's lightning all the time at the park. And no, you're not going to put lightning rods in every part of the city. But the West Pine Soccer Program, which is a great program, is probably the biggest open space in Pembroke Pines that actively has people there every single day. And lightning is a fact all the time over there. And one of the issues we found out that we have over there is the fact that when that lightning alarm goes off, what does that mean? Everybody gets off the field. Problem is, everybody gets off the field and they stand under a tree. They don't, they're waiting to see if the alarm goes off again so they can go back on. Problem is, they're at risk of being hit by lightning. And one of the things they talked about that I think they've been looking for at the park is a public address system to be able to communicate with everybody at the park, hey, everybody get in your cars. And I think the item's been requested, and I think something like that should be on the next budget. And, looking at the budgets and the $1.5 million that's being spent on capital expenditure on the park, I think if you're talking about a $5,000 issue, we're talking about the safety of our children. And the one thing we learned, and with things such as the great tragedy of Stoneman Douglas, was communication was the issue. So I implore you to please give them what they need at the park. Let's get lightning rods out there so that we don't have issues, with lightning hitting anybody out there. And we need a PA system because it also helps with lost children. That's another issue. And they need to be able to communicate with everybody. They can't be running around trying to find people. We need a PA system and lightning protection at West Pines Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barnett. Okay, there's no further speakers. Let's go on to, I want to pull item 20, City Clerk. Thank you all. See you at the next second meeting. No.
Mayor,
Yes.
the proclamation that was to be presented,
She's not here.
they didn't show up? Okay.
No, I asked for her earlier.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead with item 20.
You want 12 or 20? 12 was pulled.
You asked for 20.
I know 12 is pulled. I'm on item 20.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Mr. Mayor, for the record, you're simply taking number 20 out of sequence, correct, Mr. Mayor?
Right. And 12 I got pulled over here. Look.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. This is discussion and possible action to direct city staff to contact Borlov and neighboring parcels on 196th Avenue, southeast of Pines Boulevard, to see if reasonable opportunity exists to purchase said properties for preservation, either as wetland or open park use. Mayor, Commissioners, this is a parcel that, can't remember if it was 2005 or 2006. It was part of the original 2005 bond issue. And staff made attempts to purchase it. It's sort of oddly located between two wetland areas. It's actually one wetland area shared by two communities. And it has caused a lot of grief and consternation in Western Pembroke Pines. And I believe that we're going to be talking about a bond issue at some point in the future. And what I would like to do, because one of the owners of these parcels has indicated their willingness to sell, which is good news. And so I would like to give the manager instruction to reach out to them and to see whether or not a reasonable purchase can be arranged. Obviously, any purchase the city does has to be based on appraised value and not invented value. Property is about as good as what can be done with it. That's in terms of its value. It is zoned agricultural. So what I would like to do is I'd like to see whether or not this space and the adjoining parcel can be purchased and used in some community-appropriate way. And that's basically my motion. The residents of the city have emailed us. 2 large homeowner associations are in favor of it. All of Western Pembroke Pines is looking forward to a positive opportunity to move this thing forward. And I think it would be a great thing for residents, and I think it would go far in terms of calming down a lot of the concerns about simply just too many homes out there and not enough ability to drive with ease. It's become a problem. It's the #1 concern in the city, certainly in West Pines, is traffic. But I'm also concerned about making sure that this land is available for drainage, and that it's not concreted over, and that whatever happens to it is an attractive use. The owner there has started to clear his land, which he has the absolute right to do. He took out the necessary permits. The trees that are coming down are invasive trees, pretty as they are. Under any preservation effort, under any naturization of the parcel, they would have to be removed because they're invasive and they're non-native species. It's a Melaleuca jungle there, basically. So they would have to come down under any set of circumstances. But it's sort of like a tooth missing in a smile that has been greatly appreciated by these residents, and they're looking very forward to you all agreeing to direct the city manager to make these contacts and see whether we can make a deal work. So
Is there a second to the
that's my motion.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner Cyple.
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Let me tell you, I agree. I absolutely agree that we need to look at hopefully these 2 parcels of property that are available. We would have to go through what the city would be legally required to do, which is, first off, if they would agree to sell it, and then go through the process of, the appraisals and all of that we would have to do, which I think would not be the big issue. But what concerns me more about this is certainly not keeping it as open space, green space, mitigation area, something like that, other than something being built on it, is the fact that I would want and would require some guarantee that if, in fact, the city purchased this, that it would in perpetuity be kept that way. Because we've had that happen to us before, where there was a property, it's public, with the post office. And when we originally agreed to sell to who we sold to, we sold that based upon their presentation. Tell me if I'm not correct, that it was to be $100 million homes that were to be built on that property. That sounded fantastic to all of us. Sounded fantastic. Not too dense, high-quality homes, fit within a community of residential all around it. We were happy. Fast forward a few years down the road, that's not what happened, folks.
No.
That's not at all what happened. Came back with a whole different plan, and now you see what is going on there, and we're already feeling the impact of traffic, which we felt before that, but we're feeling it much more now, and it's going to continue to be more as construction and purchase and move in and all of that happens. So I fully, absolutely agree that we as a city need to say no sometimes We need to say no sometimes, and this is a great opportunity for us to be loud and clear, no, on this. Our residents don't need anything shoved at them anymore. They've already done enough. We talk about not going forward with projects until we get traffic in line with that. I'm going to tell you folks, there's not enough road space out there to ever make all of that be good. We can only get as far as we can get out there, and to add more to that is in my mind, doesn't even come close to making any sense. So I'm not sure, Mr. City Manager or City Attorney, how, if in fact we got to that point of the city actually purchasing either one or hopefully both of these properties, that we could then place upon it that it would in perpetuity be a green open space, a family passive park area, something like that that would make sense and would be of benefit and be a very positive factor for the communities surrounding it. So, City Attorney, is my request or my question to you, is that a
Commissioner
Yes, sir.
what's in order is a second to Commissioner Castillo's motion.
Well,
And then you can bring up another item.
well, I thought I did do the second. I'm sorry if I didn't say it.
No, you
now.
didn't.
I'm sorry if I didn't.
Okay, you
I
second
did.
the item?
I did, yes.
Go ahead.
So, City Attorney, my question,
May I respond?
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. The question you asked, Commissioner, is whether or not the city, if it were to acquire this property that's described on the record in accordance with state statute, which is just parenthetically, there is a statute that applies. It's in Chapter 166, which is a statute governing local governments governing cities. It's 166.045, as a matter of fact, and what it tells us is that if the city were to buy property, it requires no less than 2 appraisals if the value exceeds $500,000 of value. And to that extent, to the extent a commission or a city council, city commission were to try to buy that property, it would require a 4/5 vote if they're buying it for more than the average of the 2 appraisals. That's just legal requirements.
right?
Your question goes to the issue, if you acquire that property, can you encumber it with a covenant or condition which would make it perennially or perpetually open space? And the answer is yes. There are ways in which to allow a city commission to self-declare on a piece of property its use for open space and for open use, and to that extent, the law would permit the city to do that in the context of a reservation or restriction if the commission were to so impose that. And it would be a recorded instrument that would be recorded at closing that would put the public on notice of that commitment. There are other trappings of this conversation which I could add to, but to answer your specific question, the answer is there is a legal vehicle to get you there. Have to get past the statute as to acquisition requirements, but also the issue relates to subverting or to subjecting the property or both to a reservation or a restriction or a covenant that would perpetually limit its potential use. And one more thing, if I can, Mayor, to the Commissioner. Understand that there's a constitutional provision in Florida which the voters voted on some number of years ago, and in the state statutes, that you cannot buy a piece of property as a city and spin it off to a developer anymore. That cannot be done.
That was a good one.
You can't condemn property for that purpose. You can acquire property for that purpose, but you cannot condemn it, which means you cannot use eminent domain to take property from someone else to put it to an economic benefit use.
So then, City Attorney, the answer to my question was yes, that the city, should the city be able to acquire either or both of these properties, we could go through that process, and at that point, we could then recognize it and deem it that it is forever to be whatever we say that it would be. This open space, this, whatever the language would be at that point, we can do that. So in my mind, Mr. Dodge, I think that the direction that hopefully you're going to get tonight is really almost a no-brainer. You just need to go figure it out. You need to go figure it out with the requirements of what we're asking for, that it stays green area, and we move forward with it. I think there's hoops you have to jump through, obviously, the legal stuff that the city attorney just alluded to. but we've done that before, and we're gonna do it again. We're gonna do it other times again. It's not rocket science, and you just need to make it happen, that's all. Enough out west being not listened to, and those residents being encumbered unfairly with projects. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion?
Yes,
on the
ma'am.
motion? Further discussion? Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Good discussion, and just to bring this into a historical perspective, because it was mentioned. Speaking to a member of the administration in preparation of this item, I asked the question, when was the last time the city of Pembroke Pines purchased a non-government-owned parcel within the city limits?
City Attorney?
And the answer was, we haven't in over 18 years, except for Raintree. That would be the only one that had flipped. Everything else, if you think about it, we had the post office. We entered into a bidding war with the county because they wanted to put a bus depot. As a result of us acquiring the property, the developer, as Commissioner Seipel had mentioned, $100 million homes, beautiful project. And then there was a legal snafu during that process that required a change in what it was going to be. And as a result of that, the City Commission unanimously supported that change. Back in 2005, 3/5 of us that are sitting here tonight were here. And what I also heard through comments tonight, things I heard on media in the news, is it could be used for drainage, it could be used for potential development, and it could be used for development if we didn't have a traffic problem. So for me, I know I'm familiar with the statute 16605, I think the city attorney had mentioned.
045.
045, thank you, sir. Appraisals are gonna cost, we need to get at least 2 of them. They're gonna cost roughly $6,000 to $10,000 to find out. Then we have to have a willing buyer, a seller rather. What we haven't looked at, if we're going to use it specifically for drainage, Commissioner Seipel, is perhaps partnering with the South Broward Drainage District. Certainly, if there's a mutual community benefit, it should be bared across all government agencies. If the intent is to leave it in its natural state, then I could see the drainage district having interest in it. If it would be for a full development passive park, that certainly has its own capital improvements. But I'm not quite sure. The city manager has mentioned to the commission in a workshop, and it was mentioned here tonight, about potentially going out for a bond, a GO bond, out on a ballot for park improvements. And I just mentioned just a few short minutes ago that people are being hammered with their bills, and they want tax relief, not additional debt. So if the funding, and again, I'm just pulling from what I'm hearing tonight, if the funding to pay for this thing is through a voter referendum that we don't know about yet, if it were to pass or not, that can't happen before 2024. We cannot have an election before then. Okay. So, bond council, we had asked the city manager and the city attorney of when we could have one of these bond initiatives in play, and unfortunately the clock ran out for this year. So the city Manager, is there a possibility of doing this inquiry without without the expense? First, we have to see if we have a willing partner. You've been the master at land acquisition and making it for the best interest of the city. I mean, you certainly have a pulse of whether or not something is viable. Anybody can ask for a price for anything, but as our beloved friend Carl Schechter used to say, you know, we're going to find out how much you're worth. So I would say that I don't have an issue moving forward with inquiry. I do have some reservations expending tax dollars on something that, quite frankly, if it's going to be tied to a referendum to pay for it, it's too far out in the distance to really bring this thing in for a landing at this point, Mayor.
Further discussion. City Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mayor, if I may, I believe there was some requests to speak on this item.
Okay, nobody told me.
There were 3 requests.
All right.
Susan Snyder, Heike Niger, and Scott Barnett. Susan Snyder.
Good evening, Snyder.
There's a button there to press.
Yeah, it says speak. Yeah, speak. Speak. Hey, you're on.
There? Hi. Hello, my name is Susan Snyder. I live at 730 Southwest 191st Avenue, Pembroke Pines. Thank you so much for considering a way to keep our beautiful city a national leader in providing parks and green spaces. We have an opportunity to create another green vista. We seem to be in a moment where short-term decisions are made based on past practice and anticipation of short-term gains. Unfortunately, the tipping point is here. An eye toward the future is necessary, and leadership is required. Thanks to Angelo for being aware and leading on the environmental front in West Pines. The 5 or 10 acres at 196th Avenue could become many things. The land that's for sale should become Pembroke Pines land. It could be a passive green space that continues to be a wildlife corridor, a watershed, a living carbon absorption area, a place of serenity and beauty, and more. It should not add more to the traffic density, especially wedged into wetland preserves of 2 communities. It should probably never have been segmented, but that's the past, and done is done. This land should be non-intrusive, no bright lights, no high maintenance, perhaps just nature at its best. It was once wetlands before degraded by the current owners. It could be restored with community involvement and foundational funding. It might be a community reading space with benches. It might be a small playground for our children and families. It might be an adaptive park with walks, ramps, adaptive swings, and sensory structures for people of all abilities. It might be an observation location for classrooms of children to notice and question. It should not be paved over. And it should not be a point of contention for our citizens, but rather an opportunity for collaboration and an advisory capacity that strengthens our community. It is what it is, 10 acres in the middle of preserves that provide so much to 2 communities and to our city's well-being, is not going to solve the long-term housing crisis, but stands as a symbol of where and when we should stand our ground and say, enough is enough. Rather than looking backward and saying it's not possible for us to be flexible thinkers and do something new, it's time to say, what if? Let's say yes, and let's look to the future one positive step at a time. My ask along with women in our community, county, state, country, and world is that you use your power and imagination to work toward purchasing this land for the living things that already live here. Trees, people, animals, and clean water. Please vote to engage the current owners of this property and purchase the land to keep it green as a symbol of our commitment to a green Pembroke Pines. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next speaker.
Heike Nager?
Hard to follow, such a beautiful serenade. My name is Heike Nager, Pembroke Pines resident. I live at 254 Southwest 180th Avenue in Silver Lakes. I am here to provide a different perspective. I am a climate change scientist, so what I'm seeing is that we need to think about development that's sustainable in the future. I have a 6-year-old daughter. She's being assessed for softball. Actually, I have vested interest in here, and I'm wondering, is she going to be able to live in this community 20 years from now, 30 years from now? How do we want this community to thrive in the future? I don't think that's going to be possible if we pave over everything that we have. I think there's also direct threats from climate change that we need to consider. We need to think about building a resilient community that can withstand the threats that come from climate change, protecting habitats, ensuring that we have enough drainage and that we have opportunities to grow more trees, to provide more shade in an ever-rising temperature. We're looking at sea level rise as well. So I think there's a lot of considerations to not only, favor sustainable development that is uncontrolled, but really thinking about the future generations. Where are we going to be 50 years from now? Are we going to pave over everything, all of South Florida? I don't think that any of us want that. It needs to be a fine-tuned balance in order to ensure that we provide the right future for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Scott Barnett?
Scott Barnett, 19346 Southwest 5th Street. Obviously, you've probably seen me on this issue every time it's come up, and this goes back to 2018. I do not fault the developer for wanting to do something with this land, but for him, this is a profit-making enterprise. He wanted to make a zoning change from agricultural to residential, simply to flip the property. I remember there was talk about selling to Lennar to build more townhomes, because yes, we need more townhomes, but obviously when West Pines, all of those lands opened up, just so many developers gobbled up all that land, and the city, I believe, does have a responsibility to balance all of the development with green space. Now, you heard me talking earlier about the sporting activities, the West Pines Park. There's lots of parks in Pembroke Pines, but so many of them are dedicated to sporting activities, which means other people can't necessarily use them. As an example of a really good use of a park that was recently changed by Sunset Lakes Elementary in Miramar, there's Harbor Lake Park that was built there as a jogging park, as a passive park that gives that community the opportunity to have an open space, a green space, to just go for walks with babies and carriages, exercise, what have you. West of Pembroke Pines, we do have the Anderson Park, which is all the way east on the west side of, but just west of I-75. But out further west, there really is no park for us to engage in those kind of activities. So I think it'd be great to have a passive park for that community. I can give you some context, obviously, of this land, and obviously it'd be great to find ways to purchase it. But it's interesting. I did an analysis just to give you some basic numbers, and I'm not an appraiser, but the land was originally bought, I don't know, for probably like $20,000 by a man in Miami Beach. Eventually, a church bought that land for $250,000. Mr. Boria bought the land for $530,000. Interestingly enough, after trying to make the zoning changes, he sold the land back to himself for $1 million. So I don't know if that increases the value or if that's just, I don't know what the theory on that was. And obviously, he's clearing the land. There's a cost to that. But he recently expressed that, he could be looking for $3 to $4 million on that land, which is an exorbitant cost for agricultural zoned land. But I think it would be closer to a million or so. It's a big expense. But again, the city spends a lot of money. You see the parks budget. You see everything that goes into the budget. We're talking, millions and millions of dollars. And I think it's important, again, that the city dedicate themselves to balancing all of the development that they've allowed to happen with green space, because the city is responsible for providing green space to its residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Any further discussion on the motion? On the motion. Quickly, we're gonna vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to just say thanks for your input regarding development and things. You know, recognizing that over the many years that Pembroke Pines has been developing, our city manager and our planning and economic director, you know, have done a lot to develop the city. They're the ones who bring to us these ideas for development. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to know from city staff, how would this impact their development plans that they have laid out for the city?
City manager?
Mayor and Commission, we had no plans for this particular parcel. It had sit there for years. I think about 8 years ago, I made an inquiry of the landowners, and they did not have an interest in selling the parcels at that time.
The church.
But that is, that 10 acres was never in our plan for any type of development. And the development really originates from the landowners that come and present their proposals to us. We don't go out and seek those developments.
Okay, further discussions?
So I do like the idea that is being brought up, that maybe then we can probably give some direction for some new zoning or for some new restrictions to maybe accommodate some of these issues that we're speaking about, the overdevelopment. So I certainly do support this for at least now to take a look at this. Thank you.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Seipel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Good?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you all for your interest. We'll take Vice Mayor Schwartz's item up now.
Mayor, I just wanted to let you know Mr. Terrell arrived.
Oh, you're here, okay. Let me.
Would you like to do that first, Mayor?
Did you come up, Barry? I was looking for you.
I do apologize for being a little bit late. We got a little bit lost on the way here. So it's great to see everyone.
Okay, thank you. All right, we want to give Ryan Terrell proclamation from the city of Pembroke Pines, and it's Florida Civics Week. Whereas municipal government is the government closest to the people and the one with the most direct daily impact upon its residents. And whereas municipal government provides services and programs that enhance the quality of life for residents, making our city their home. And whereas municipal government is administered for and by its citizens and is dependent upon public commitment to and understanding of its many responsibilities, including direct participation in the democratic process. And whereas municipal government officials and employees share the responsibility to pass along the understanding of the services provided by their municipalities and their benefits. And whereas representative government is dependent on the exercise of the privileges and responsibilities of its citizens. And whereas civic and political participation remains the medium in which citizens engage in a free, diverse, and positive political dialogue that guides our nation toward a common interest, consensus, and good government. And whereas civic and political participation remains the medium in which citizens engage in free, diverse, and positive political dialogue that guides our nation toward a common interest, consensus, and good governance. And whereas there is a public interest for our nation's leader to foster civic discourse, education, and participation in federal, state, and local affairs. And whereas the advent of revolutionary internet technology offers new mechanisms for empowering our citizens and fostering greater civic engagement than at any time in our history. And whereas the use of new technologies can bring people together in civic forums, educate citizens on our rules and responsibilities, and promote citizen participation in the political process through volunteerism, voting, and the elevation of diverse voices in public discourse. And whereas Florida Civic Week is a very important time to recognize the significant role played by municipal government in our lives, and to spread the word to all Floridians that they can shape and influence to shape the level of government. Now therefore I Frank Sewers, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Pembroke Pines, do hereby recognize the week of September 12, 16, 2022 as Florida Civics Week in the city of Pembroke Pines, and encourage all residents to honor civic engagement by participating in educational activities and community service. Brian, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor Ordis. Thank you, Pembroke Pines City Commission. My name is Ryan Terrell. I am the Director of Community Engagement for the Florida Center for Civic Engagement. The Florida Center for Civic Engagement promotes civic participation in our state, local, and municipal governments. This is our second annual Florida Civics Week. We've had 10 municipalities and counties throughout the state participate in our 2 Civics Weeks so far. We are going to be unrolling more programming for citizens to be participating in civic participation over the next year, including ways to get more active on the city, state, and local level. So we've been honored to have Pembroke Pines participate in both of the Civics Weeks that we've had so far in the state of Florida. They're a great partner. Me and my partner, the director of the Florida Center for Civic Engagement, we know some of these commissioners and the mayor for a long time, and we're very thankful to have their continued support and partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. Good luck. Vice Mayor, we'll bring you right on. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you.
I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. I don't have a copy of the item. I have something here about Lenovo Think Center, but I think this is the item that was pulled. I don't have the Vice Mayor's item.
It's an add-on in your.
We'll take care of it. All right, Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Okay, I got it now. Thank you very much. I got it now.
Discussion and possible action to authorize and direct the city attorney with the assistance of professional staffs of the city administration to prepare an emergency ordinance for lawful first and second reading at the commission meeting of 9/21, that's 2 weeks from tonight, which will regulate, require, and impose upon certain businesses and business operations in the city the obligation to provide on-site, off-duty city police details and/or private security forces, all at the cost and expense of the business and/or property owners in order to properly manage and to control gatherings of persons and to best protect the health, safety, and welfare of all visitors, patrons, guests, customers, invitees at such locations within the city. Mayor, the item that I presented tonight is quite unfortunate that we have a change in society. We have had significant increases in service level calls for police action, code 3 calls in certain areas of the city that have large gatherings of people. The ordinance is not to, and I don't want to have any kind of negative impact on those who are doing everything they possibly can to ensure public safety of the general public and our first responders are paramount. However, the unfortunate news that came out of Pembroke Lakes Mall over the weekend is not an event that I'm trying to be careful with my words, Mayor, is not an event that was not foreseen. City staff, at the time that an application was provided for a large entertainment district, they did not want to provide a level of security that staff was comfortable with. As a matter of fact, they didn't want any. The application moved forward without that. Property management at the mall felt a need to ask them to provide security. Now, security exists, but right now it exists because of something that we don't control. This ordinance would require businesses that have very large occupancy requirements, have beer and license opportunities, to be regulated and to require a certain level of staffing based on a few things. I've spoken with our police chief and our city manager and Mr. Stam about their comfort level on how to move forward. And I'm not here tonight to say what that would be. I want to give them an opportunity to do a few things. Our police department have gathered some facts, disturbing in my opinion, about the number of service level calls that have come in the last 90 days or since it opened. It has to stop. I have parents who have been, and this is prior to July 4th, have expressed concern about sending their children, minors, to the location at certain hours, on certain days of the week, or on the weekends, because they just don't feel safe. And this was well before what occurred this past weekend. We are a better city than that. We are not, I mean, God bless Miami Beach and what they have to go through. Those police officers are constantly being put at risk. And what was reported on the news wasn't all of the events, and I encourage you to get with the police chief, who can provide you more specific detail of what actually happened that evening, this past weekend. So on Labor Day, the police chief was kind enough to exchange some correspondence with me. I thank him for that. I also recognize that we are not the ones who are going to have to enforce it, and I want to give staff an opportunity to get this thing right, to get the next couple weeks to bring it forward. But what I don't want to have happen is for this to linger. We owe it to the public to let the public know that what occurred over the weekend should never happen again in the city of Pembroke Pines, period. So the reason why I'm calling for a first and second reading is to let the public know that I am prepared to support a first and second reading, as long as staff can provide an ordinance. We have a nightclub ordinance already in place. I think there's a dovetail opportunity there. I certainly believe that we can no longer rely on private sector to say, well, we'll have this covered for you. You don't have to worry about it. Back in July, the information that I was getting was that, well, we'll just call 911 and they'll just go code 3 and they'll be there. That's unacceptable. So my motion, Mayor, thank you, is, as the item is written, for first and second reading, if possible, for the second reading, and I'll let the city attorney determine that, to have it come back for us in 2 weeks on the 21st.
There a second to that?
Yes, I'll second it.
Good. Commissioner Seifel, second.
Yes.
Further discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Mayor, I have a question.
Commissioner Seifel, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree, bad stuff that was happening and should not be happening in the city of Pembroke Pines at all. What I'm really still kind of flabbergasted about is a number of us were at their grand opening, ribbon cutting, opening, whatever they wanted to call it that day. And they gave us a tour. It's certainly a beautiful facility. But then they opened the doors for everybody to come in. And I mean, there were a lot of people there. There really were a lot of people. And my husband and I were there, and we were standing towards the right by the front door, and we were talking to two people, a man and a woman. And the man introduced himself as the head of security. And so, you know, we were obviously very interested in what that meant and what he meant, you know, what was he going to be doing. So we had quite a long conversation with him, and it was that, yes, and he was going to have security, because it's an upstairs and a downstairs, and there's a lot of corners and areas that he intended to have security on at the front, at the back, all levels, dark area. When I say dark areas, I don't mean dark, but I mean areas that, you know, are sort of hidden back behind because maybe they have a paddleball wall or something there. But when we questioned him quite a little bit, Mark and I did, and he was just, yeah, we're all about security. We do this all over the place, and we really go overboard, was his word that he used a number of times in our conversation, that we go overboard in providing security because we want folks to come. We want to have business. We want them to come in. We want them to feel safe, and they're not going to allow their young folks to come in if they don't feel safe. And so he said, that's a big business expense that we have, but we think it's well worth it to maintain security. So I left that day thinking, wow, that sounds really good. Like they've done this all around the country, and they know what they're talking about. They've done this before. It didn't take long, though, to start hearing small little incidents that were happening, or not anything certainly close to what happened over this past weekend, but enough to really kind of make me start thinking, like, wow, what's really happening here? Who's really coming to this location to enjoy this beautiful, it is a beautiful facility, it absolutely is. But who's really coming there, and who's monitoring, who's watching, and who's taking charge in there to make sure that everybody is okay, comes there okay, and goes home okay. And so when I started hearing these little bits, you know, tidbits around, I thank you, Vice Mayor, for putting this on, because I think, you know, at Pembroke Pines, we don't bury our heads in the sand about issues. Sometimes they're difficult issues, but we meet them head on, and I think this is something we need to meet head on and take care of it and find a way. So I look forward to the 21st, seeing what, with your request, what staff, our PD, city, everybody will come together with some kind of a plan. Hopefully it'll be complete enough to answer all of our questions that we can't have first and second, but that'll remain to be seen. But thank you.
Mr. Castillo.
Yes, thank you. So I got an email from someone we all know on Labor Day saying there was a shooting at the mall. And I said, I didn't hear that. And that was followed by a screenshot of a Facebook post by a resident saying, I was in the movie theater and someone said there was a shooting, and luckily I was sitting near the exit. And so I made it to my car as I saw people running out of different establishments. So I called the police chief, who, as he always does, answered right away. And I said, there's a shooting at the mall? And he said, no, there was no shooting at the mall. There was a disturbance at one of the establishments there. We responded, and there was some running in the parking lot. And a young lady, I believe it was struck by a vehicle. My understanding was it was not a serious injury. This is what I was told. But it's unfortunate when there are pedestrians in a parking lot, that can happen. I'm not defending what was there. I'm simply clarifying what I was told. I don't have to call you up, Chief. Did I get it basically right? Just not. Okay. So that's what occurred. Some years ago, we all, I think we're here, perhaps Commissioner Good was not. I can't remember if Commissioner Schwartz had joined us or not. Time flies so fast. But we had an issue with 2 nightclubs, and we began to litigate it. To legislate it. And that effort ended up being abandoned. There was no passed ordinance on nightclubs. And the reason for that is that PD spoke to those nightclubs, they got serious, and took care of the problem. And to this day, I mean, there's still nightclubs, there's going to be an incident every once in a while. However, they've taken care of the problem. So my first question is, have we reached out to this business, which has impressed some of us in terms of what their plan was for security, and said, hey, look, you got an issue there, what are you going to do about it? Has anybody done that?
Mr. Dodge?
I'd defer that to the chief, that question.
Because I think we need to know that before we start militarizing businesses. So let's just, has anyone reached out to this business and said, you have an issue? And it concerns us.
Evening, Chief.
Good evening, Chief Tip Schimpman, Police Chief. Since this incident, we have not reached out. This item was immediately brought forward for this discussion tonight to see what direction the city would like to go.
Yeah, and I'm sure you agree that you'd enjoy that opportunity to talk to this business to see what it is that they could do to resolve their own issue, right?
That would be the first step, yes.
Okay. So when I first read this, it said 9/7, and that's tonight. But now I'm hearing it's the 21st, and this gives me a little bit more comfort. So we have some time now, and I would hope that between now and the 21st, we reach out to this business and we talk to them about this. And this is based on the conversation that you and I had. I also spoke to the city manager and I spoke to the city attorney about this issue. I didn't have a lot of time to do it because it came up last minute, and I understand the urgency to deal with this, and I appreciate that. But I would think that that's the first thing we need to do. Not the least of which is not just because it's the right thing the right first step to take, but it justifies any further steps we might need to take. But the second thing is, I'm not altogether sure, and I don't want to press you for an answer now. Maybe between now and the 21st, you may want to take a look. That if we went ahead with this, I'm not sure that we have enough police officers to do these details for as many hours as this business is open. So there are some practical considerations that would have to be looked at, assuming an ordinance along these lines was passed. Then there's the issue of, well, if you don't have police officers there, do you have armed guards there in case there's a need for that level of intervention? At which point it opens the door for a whole series of what ifs and hows in terms of how that's put together. So I want to take my advice on this matter from you, because I think it was under Chief Justino that we had this discussion originally. And we remember that it sort of fell off the table because the issue went away because the people who were involved ascribed seriousness to the problem, such that we didn't have to legislate it. So I'm all in favor of issuing. I'm not exactly sure. I need to read this a little bit more carefully. But if the issue is to ask staff to come back to us with a plan that might be an ordinance, because I'll be the first one to say yes to the ordinance if they don't take care of their own problem. What we're not going to do is have an unsafe location in our city. But I'd like to give these folks an opportunity to perform, just like we have in the past And we were thankful for the efforts that were taken by these business owners in the past. It's in their best interest to do it. So those are my comments, and I appreciate that the item came forward, but I want to take this a little bit, I want to take it one step at a time, because requiring a business to have a police presence at all times that they're open, that's a big step. That's a very big step. And if it can be handled by the businesses themselves, that's fine. Now, I also recall, and I know that you were with the force at the time, that the plan would be imposed. Chief, help me to remember it. Sam, help me to remember it. The way I remember it is, the plan would be imposed for security, an ordered security detail or setup deemed sufficient by the police chief if they crossed a certain threshold of calls for service along the lines of a disturbance or gunplay or something like that. That's how we were sort of angling at this issue with the nightclubs. There had to be something of a threshold. You and I spoke about how often in the short time that this business has been open, you've had to go there on disturbances, and I think you said 10, right?
Right around a dozen, yes, sir.
Okay, a dozen. That business has not been open very long for there to be a dozen type cases. So whatever they were saying at the ribbon cutting, which I couldn't attend because I was out of town, but whatever they were saying at that ribbon cutting, they're not delivering on that. And we need to go back to them and we need to say, you're a concern to us now. And it needs to be said respectfully but sternly that we are at the edge of having to legislate this. So what are you going to do about it?
Got it. All right, City Clerk, call the roll for the motion, please.
So what are we voting on?
Well, we're gonna vote on the motion.
Okay, so is the motion to direct staff to come back with a plan?
City Clerk, repeat the motion, please.
The motion's
City
written.
Clerk,
Vice
repeat the
Mayor.
motion, please.
Vice Mayor Schwartz said that the motion would be as written in the motion language, and it would be brought back for first and second reading on the 21st of September.
So,
Commissioner Kazale.
I have to tell you, I'd like to make an amendment to this motion.
You can?
I'd like to ask staff to come back to us with their recommended plan, which might include an emergency ordinance. But if this business comes forward with a security plan to the satisfaction of our police chief, I don't see why we would insist on passing an ordinance that wouldn't be necessary. So.
Okay, is there a second to the amendment? Second to the amendment.
Yeah, I'm gonna second it.
Who was that?
I agree in both these situations, but
Vice
I'm
Mayor,
a second.
So Commissioner Good seconds it. Now on the amendment, further discussion on the amendment.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
well,
If I may
Further
clarify.
discussion on the amendment. Further discussion on the amendment.
Good.
Who is it?
I yield.
Somebody speak.
Thank you, Mayor. I will take the floor. Okay. So part of my discussion with city administration and the police chief was to have a review of the time and days of the service calls, to have a performance metrics. It would not be 24-hour security. That's not here. It was left broad brush for a specific reason, to allow our police chief and our city administration to come back with an ordinance that is common sense approach. My concern is the following, that if a plan is presented, there has to be a follow-up. There has to be a trigger of number of service calls, types of calls, number of hours, number of people. I'll let staff bring that back as far as the ordinance goes. What I don't want to see happen is for us to rely upon more broken promises.
Are you for the amendment or against?
I can't support the amendment in a sense of a plan because, now I can't direct staff, right? But I've spoken to the city manager, telling him essentially, that's what I'm looking for. So if you're comfortable with that direction, which sounds like a plan to me, then strike down the amendment, allow staff to bring it back on the 21st, because they're already in the process of information gathering.
Well, I just between the amendment and the main, I think they're simultaneous in a sense. I don't think the main is, you're losing out on the main, what you're
So
doing.
you also want to include it then? So it's an amendment to.
If the amendment
add-
is just to add the additional look at, sort of like what you're speaking to, maybe it was a little bit more defined, but.
How about this, Mayor? If it was a friendly amendment to include.
Hold on. There's an amendment on the floor.
Yeah.
City Clerk, repeat the amendment, please. This is gonna be done right. Go ahead, City Clerk.
Okay. Commissioner Commissioner Castillo amended the motion to ask staff to come back with a recommendation of a plan to include emergency ordinance and security plan to the satisfaction of the police chief.
Okay, everybody understand that amendment? All right, call a roll on the amendment.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I still need to get my point out that I wanted to speak to on the amendment for just a moment.
Go ahead.
Because, though we're talking about these very large establishments, I'm also a little bit focused on, an issue that I know that we've had to, engage when we talk about some of these homes that have now been able to do their own business and register as a business with their homes, and they become party houses. And they, bring that same kind of energy that we're speaking to right now that a larger establishment would. So for me, I'm interested in also seeing if that, the smaller element, but yet just as impactful, for these businesses that have registered as a business within the local neighborhoods at a single-family home, that generate, these large gatherings for a place that we know normally doesn't do that in the first place. So I'd like to have that included as part of the assessment of what you're doing. Because I like that idea of being able to put security on somebody who has a single-family home in a tight neighborhood, and they do parties every week, and they're out of control. So,
Yeah, that's a problem.
Okay, I would like to have the owner of the property appear before us too on one of these weeks, because I met him as well, along with Commissioner Cycle. We need to have security. It is a huge place, and when two people get angry, they're gonna fight. Happens every day. So we need to try, as a city, try to alleviate that. They're a great police force. Maybe we have to impose ourselves on them. I don't know. So, okay, anything else on the amendment? Call the amendment, City Clerk.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Good?
yes.
Commissioner Seifel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
On the amendment, on the motion as amended. Call a roll, please.
Vice Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Seifel?
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Good?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Good
thank you.
discussion. All right, let's go to the consent agenda. Item 12 has been pulled, so we need to have motion on 1, 2,
So moved.
3. Hold on, I didn't tell you what I want.
I didn't say anything.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13.
So moved.
14, 15, 15.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion for the,
Consent agenda.
the item before us for our agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, call a roll, please, on the motion to approve.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Seifel?
Yes.
Commissioner Good?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, City Attorney, we're next. We're
Thank you.
resolution.
Item 16. May I read, Mayor?
Go ahead.
Thank you. For the purpose of the record, item number 16 is a motion to pass, pardon me, proposed ordinance number 2022-11 on first reading, which is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, amending Chapter 155 of the city's Code of Ordinances entitled Land Development Code by amending Section 155.306 entitled Application Submittal Procedures at subsection E entitled Fees to provide for an updated fee schedule, providing for codification, providing for conflicts, severability, and providing for an effective date. Item number 16 on the floor for consideration. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Moved by Commissioner Castillo, is there a second? Second? Is there a second? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Second. What?
I'll second the motion, Mayor.
You have to do this when I'm asking.
I know, but
We're not that busy. That's what happens with technicalities. I'm serious, I like to run it by the book. All right, let's go back if we could. City Attorney, we okay?
Yeah, Mayor, if you'll
We have
accept,
a second by the
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor.
if you'll accept the second from the Vice Mayor, then the record reflects a motion and a second for consideration by the full Commission.
Correct.
Thank
All
you.
right, is there discussion? Hearing none, call a roll, please.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schwartz?
yes.
Commissioner Good?
No.
Commissioner Seifel?
No.
Mayor Ordus?
No.
Motion fails.
All right, 17, City Attorney?
Mayor, if I may ask the city manager a question.
Good.
City manager, the cost recovery for the Board of Adjustment, the fees have not been changed in a couple decades. As far as your budget, did you anticipate this item passing?
Mr. Stam?
We didn't anticipate.
Go ahead.
We didn't anticipate the item passing based upon the adoption of the ordinance, but I'd like Mr. Stam to address the need for this ordinance.
Mike Stam, Assistant City Manager, Director of Planning and Economic Development. As it articulates in the agenda item, when an applicant applies for a variance, we are losing money on every variance. We are not even covering our costs today. We collect $250 from the resident, and the legal ad alone is $150 plus or minus. The mailing labels are $250 plus or minus. We put a sign on the property, which is another $30, and then we pay for the postage, which is another $110. So we're looking at about $550 in costs, and we have a $250 application fee. When we tried to make this change many years ago, it was directed to staff that these fees should not change. That was in 2008. We asked for it again in 2017, and again, the fees were asked to stay the same, and this time we no longer were able to charge for the legal ad. I brought this back because we have noticed that there has been a huge uptick in variances, most of which are done after the fact, after the work was done. They try to legalize work they did without permit. In fact, if you look at the last 3 years, 42 variances, 40 variances in 2020, 24 in 2021, we've already have 24 year to date. So basically, the variance applications for residents are being subsidized by other applications in the city. It's the reason I brought this forward today. There was also another fee in here. It was the tree removal fee. We've been collecting $10. We go out and do inspections. Most other cities charge between $100, $150. We asked to increase the fee to $25 for a tree removal permit fee. These are the two fees that we're changing as part of this requested in the ordinance. Really, they were more cost recovery type items.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
So Mr. Stam, our code enforcement, they're doing their job.
Go ahead, Commissioner Castillo.
Are we reconsidering this item?
No,
Not yet.
So then why are we talking about it?
because the Vice Mayor has a question to the manager who just made a report.
Well, knowing that you like to do it right, I'm gonna make a motion to reconsider the item.
Well, you're not recognized. Vice Mayor is
I
asking a
just made a point of order.
Point
I'm
of order,
making a
Commissioner
motion to
Castillo.
reconsider the
Vice
item.
Mayor's asking a question.
Right.
Wait, so let's do that.
The item was
Vice Mayor,
voted
go
on.
ahead. Vice Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
I think we're out of order.
Good. Vice Mayor.
One more point of order, isn't it that the prevailing side is the only one that can bring them back? for
That is correct,
reconsideration?
Commissioner.
That's
Yeah,
correct. So,
That's right.
so Mr.
Vice
Stam,
Mayor, please go ahead.
thank you. So Mr. Stam, based on the data that you had in the backup, the supermajority of the variances were a direct result of code enforcement doing their job
a majority of the variances coming in these days are for work done without permit that they have to legalize, so they come in and ask for variances.
Right. And so now, what we're doing, by not increasing the fees, because people who do it right are now going to be paying for the people who aren't doing it correctly. I'm not on the prevailing side, and Robert's rules say I can't bring it back for reconsideration. However, the tree permit thing, $25, $10, I'm not going to fall on my sword for that. But certainly, if we are not recovering costs because postage went up, we've got to at least get that done. So if one of my three colleagues would reconsider some form of cost recovery.
Like, Vice Mayor, let's do it like this. Would any of the commissioners that voted on the prevailing side like to reconsider the motion? Okay, motions.
Okay.
All right, let's go with item, thank you.
So much for saving the taxpayer money.
Item 15, sir?
17.
Oh, 17.
If you may, pardon me, may read, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Item 17 for the record is a motion to pass proposed ordinance number 2022-12 on first reading. It reads as follows. For the record, proposed ordinance number 2022-12 is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, amending Chapter 32 of the city's Code of Ordinances entitled Departments, Boards, and Commissions, providing for the creation of a Youth Advisory Board by specifically creating a new section 32.196 and 32.197, providing the City of Pembroke Pines severability, providing for conflict severability, codification, and providing for an effective date. Item is now on the floor, 2022-12. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Hey, is there discussion? Item, okay, Commissioner Castillo moves, Commissioner Seifel moves the item. Is there a second? I'll second it. Any,
Mayor,
Commissioner Castillo?
thank you very much.
I wasn't done yet. I'll get to you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm gonna second the motion, and then we'll go see what everybody else has to say about it, which I think is a very good item.
Thank
So,
you, Mayor.
okay, Commissioner Castillo, you had a point?
Yes. So I have a question to the city attorney. There are many different ways to set up this committee. Some of them would avoid the prospect of a sunshine violation happening with young people who, as we all know, because they're young people, like to talk about things in lunchrooms and elsewhere. And because potentially there's not only a certain amount of prestige associated with being on a board, but there's potentially a scholarship, which I'm all for. But in the manner in which, Mr. City Attorney, this is drafted, because it's selected, because it's established by the city rather than established as an educational program by the schools, the Sunshine Law would apply, correct?
May I respond, Mr. Mayor?
City Attorney?
The way that the ordinance is currently drafted, it would, that the statute, which is Chapter 286 of the Florida statutes, better known as the Florida Sunshine Law, would apply.
Okay. And what are the penalties for violation of the Florida Sunshine Law?
If I may continue, there are several types of violations. There are those which are entitled to be called civil violations, civil penalties, which could be fines imposed, which are civil in nature, not a criminal nature. And then there are those which are essentially intentional crimes, which could be a misdemeanor under the statute,
okay,
which are criminal in nature and not civil in nature.
And being a minor is not a defense.
It could be argued to be a defense, but in the context of this board, it would be something that a court would consider. They are juveniles, that is true. And there would probably be different treatment for them should there be potential if there was a criminal assertion.
And yet this ordinance could be written in a way that would avoid that foreseeable danger to our young people. Correct?
Well, if it were a different kind of board and not advisory in nature.
So how would or if it was established by the schools?
If it were established, if I may respond, Mayor?
Yes.
If it were established by the schools, it would not be an advisory board to the city of Pembroke Pines, either directly to the commission itself or through administration to the commission. So the answer is the city commission would not be receiving the advice from one of its own boards, which would
Right,
then
but-
take it out of the reach of the statute.
But we nonetheless get the input of these young people, because they could just come here as citizens and tell us, we've done this school project, and we're thankful that the city cooperated, and here's our findings.
If I can just further the answer to Commissioner Castillo, the answer is, I can't know what the school board could or might do, but your characterization is that it would not be an advisory board to the city commission.
Right.
So therefore, it would extract the mix, so to speak, and it would no longer be a sunshine potential.
Correct. So we could get the benefit without the risk.
One could argue that.
If we changed the way this was written. Correct?
The answer that, as it's written, it's advisory board to the commission.
And I recall that before COVID, our mayor was very diligent about, on a regular basis, I don't know if it was bi-monthly or once a quarter, we used to meet with the principals. We used to, I believe, have breakfast with them. A number of us attended, and we used to work on things and partner together. And I'm sure that'll resume again, but certainly that's a way that we could sit down with our principals and say, in order to promote civics, today we just handed out an award celebrating civics, that we could ask them to create these boards, appoint these kids based on whatever criteria they chose, send them to us with whatever findings. We ask staff to cooperate with their efforts to look at city government. And that could all be done without running this risk. In fact, some other cities have done that, correct?
Is that a question to me?
Yes, sir.
The answer is that there are several different methods by which these types of boards have been organized.
Okay. So we had this issue 10 years ago, and we could have had a board all along not running this risk. And I was all for it, and I love the idea of having young people provide us with information, but not to the extent that it would place them in a place of foreseeable risk. So if it's the commission's singular goal is to, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, capriciously move forward with this language, which places the kids unnecessarily at risk, you have to do it without my vote. Thank you.
Okay. City Attorney.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
City Attorney?
Yes, Mayor.
Miramar has a youth advisory board.
I'm told that they do.
Yeah. The Florida League of Cities has a plethora of youth advisory boards that come to every state meeting, and they sit in with the audience, and then they go meet separately with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard, and I've been around 38 years, have you ever heard of anybody a youth advisory board member getting hit with a black eye because they did sunshine law?
Not yet.
Okay, that's why I'm supporting this item.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Commissioner Cycle.
Thank you. I want to say this, the mission statement of these different cities, boards that I have spoken to, they've kind of melded together with they'll have their own versions, but most of them are using this language, which is to encourage active citizenship and community involvement from tomorrow's public service leaders. So I brought this agenda request for a youth advisory board forward once again because it will be a good addition to our city. I had the opportunity to speak with representatives of several cities that have their own youth advisory boards. We discussed how they got started, what actions their boards have taken. There was nothing but positive responses to all of my inquiries. The boards are thriving and have become a big part of the community by being more civically involved. Their initiatives have included working with a local not-for-profit autism school, presentations to elementary school students about the importance of recycling and environmental protection, spending quality intergenerational time with a local senior center, environmentally friendly butterfly gardens, road and waterway cleanups, shadowing elected officials and city staff to learn more about local government, to build leadership, communication, and advocacy skills, and inform administration of important issues that affect young adults in the city. They not only bring these issues forward, but also suggest solutions to the problem. This proposed structure of the board closely duplicates what many cities have done and have reviewed. We don't need to reinvent the wheel for an already clearly successful board structure. School principals or school administrators know these students better than any of us do, so they are the perfect people to nominate students for participation. My conversations with city manager and our director of art and culture have been very helpful in this process. The board will be recognized and assisted, as is any other city board, with a city liaison and city staff resources. Our city attorney has given us legal information on the proposed ordinance and has assured that this board will be instructed, just as any other city board is, on Robert's Rules of Order and their sunshine law requirements and the importance of not violating that. I had a conversation recently with Ms. Sorensen because Parks and Rec was mentioned in this ordinance. So, Ms. Sorensen, did you have anything that you'd like to say about this issue?
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Commission, Christina Sorensen, Assistant City Manager, Director of Parks and Recreation. The conversation that we had was, yes, we are excited to get started on a youth advisory program, and my staff, Holly, and I have been working on the ordinance with you and with the city manager, and we're excited to get started on something like this, so definitely.
Great, thank you. And now, Mayor, I have something that Madam Clerk, could you please play quickly? It's a short little snip. This is the Youth Advisory Council for the City of Cape Coral. And I just wanted you to see how professional and how they run their meetings and how that plays out.
Will now come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Can we have more volume, please? Can they give us more volume back there? Because you need to hear what's being said.
I can read it.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll. Yes, Chair. Regarding the roll, I would like to announce that Ms. Roper, O'Donnell, and Raymer have requested to be excused, and I will mark them so. Anchetta? Present. Arvolo? Present. Bella? Present. Bernal? Present. Little? Present. Negron? Present. Osinski? Present. Polanco? Present.
Iris, these are the elected officials?
That's the board. That's the advisory board.
Oh, they're not the commissioners.
9 present, 4 excused, 1 absent. Thank you. Next is item 4, approval to the agenda and changes to the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda for the August 12th, 2022 meeting as presented? Member Zadowitz? I motion to adopt the August 12th, 2022 meeting as presented. Do we have a second? Member Osinski? I second the motion. Member Zadowitz made the motion, Member Osinski made the second to approve the agenda for the August 12th meeting as presented. Any discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll. Anchetta? Aye. Arvolo? Aye. Bella? Bernal? Aye. Little? Aye. Negron? Aye. Osinski? Aye. Polanco? Aye. Zadowitz? Aye. All ayes, motion carries. Next on the agenda is item 8, citizens input. This consists of input of citizens on matters concerning city governance, 3 minutes per individual. Council will listen to all speakers and respond after all speakers have made their presentation. I will now read the Pledge of Civility. We will be respectful of each other even when we disagree. We will direct all comments to the issues. We will avoid personal attacks. Citizens input is now open. Members of the public, please come forward to the podium. All right, seeing none, citizens input is now closed.
Okay, is that good enough?
I think, City Clerk, Madam Clerk, I think that's enough. But before you cut it off, I want to explain to you all that sitting at like the dais like that we are, those are actually the students that are the advisory board. And down to the left, seated at the tables down there are the city staff that are their liaison and whoever would be there with them. They run a full meeting. They have an agenda that they approve at each meeting. They go through it step by step. They vote. They do the same things that we would do in a meeting. They talk about their projects, and they make recommendations on how they're going to go forward themselves, like who's doing a PowerPoint for this presentation, what is our next project going to be, how will we work with all that. So what I'm saying to you all is that here's an example of our young people, and I don't think that they are unlike any other young people that we have all over, our kids everywhere around, that those that want to participate in programs like this are going to participate for all the right reasons. They're going to be the students that choose to be future leaders and have a desire to do so. I wanted to be very clear that when I was specifically at the Florida League, I had the opportunity to speak to more cities than normal, and asked a great deal of them, do you all have youth councils, youth advisory boards? And the overwhelming was, yes, we've had it for a number of years. We've had it for 10 years. We've had it for 5 years. And every response came back that it was so well run, so well received in the community, and what those students did year after year after year was clearly involve themselves in the most professional way to be these future leaders in our city. So I'm bringing this forward, and I am hoping that the language that we have here in this ordinance certainly gives us direction to move forward with this. Like I said, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is working all over. Our surrounding cities have it. To the north, all through the state have this. It works very well. And again, I asked the question because I knew that was of a concern. Not one of the mayors, you asked the city attorney, not one of them came back and said we've had any issues with anyone stepping out of line or anything. So what I'm asking for is support from my colleagues to move this initiative forward. And you know what, let's get going. Let's give our kids, I have enough faith in our young folks that they're going to do the right thing, they're going to follow the rules, and we're going to have a good product. So I ask for your support, colleagues.
Can I ask a follow-up, please?
Go ahead.
So that was a great, I'm so thankful that we had that video because, and this is to the city attorney. Sam, there were no commissioners in that room.
At least from, if I may respond, Mayor, at least from the video that we looked at, there appears to be no one, unless they're sitting in the audience somewhere.
Okay, so they might have been in the audience.
Could have been.
But this was staff sitting at the staff table and the young people sitting at the dais, which I love that image, by the way. I love the idea of a youth advisory. I just want to keep them out of trouble. So let me ask you, so let's say that, the first question is, does this proposal anticipate young people standing at that podium reporting to us seated here at a city commission meeting?
City attorney?
I can't respond exactly, but I can suggest that the thought process would be that they are, under the ordinance that we have drafted for the commission's review, they would make recommendations to the city's professional staff, particularly through Christina's department.
Okay.
So there's and I'll use the word filter only in the context of having a liaison to work with this group, who would then correlate their recommendations and advice through that department to the commission through administration.
You'll forgive me, Counselor, but I thought we were very clear in our conversation, so let me go back again.
Okay.
If the young people are reporting to staff instead of this commission, though this commission created the Youth Advisory Council. Is the act of them reporting to, findings to staff a sunshine violation?
If that recommendation to staff is filtered to the commission, the answer is yes.
Okay. Would it be filtered to the commission if the commission was just seated in the audience as a member of the public?
The answer is what occurs outside of the public forum, and that is what the Sunshine Law captures. It captures out of public view comments. Two or more members of a similar body, same body, basically concocting, as it were, or collaborating on a decision that has yet to be reached in a public forum.
I know that you're trying to answer my question.
I am.
Yet you haven't.
Okay.
So let me so let's say a commissioner is sitting in the audience.
Yes.
And as they conduct business, is their conducting business a sunshine violation by virtue of the fact that the commissioner is in the audience?
No.
No. Commissioner Seipel, does this ordinance, or could we make it clear that under no circumstances will the young people present their findings to the commission, but only to, or does it say, or only to the staff?
Okay, Mayor, may I answer that?
Go ahead.
If you look on page 3 of the ordinance,
Now we're getting somewhere.
32.197,
Hold on
Youth
one second.
Advisory Board
Hold
and
on.
duties. The
30
powers and duties of the Youth
I'm
Advisory
sorry,
Board.
where are you?
Page 3
Yes?
of the ordinance,
Yes?
item 17.
Yes? Go ahead. Page 3.
I was waiting for you.
Thank you.
The ordinance at the front. The front behind 17.
Got it. Page
Okay.
3?
Go to page 3.
Yep.
32.197, the powers
ahead.
and duties of the Youth Advisory Board shall be advisory in nature to the City Commission,
City
but
Commission.
solely by and through the professional staff of the Recreation and Cultural Arts Department and the city's administration. So clearly, solely through Parks and Rec, City Administration to Commission. So we don't have that issue.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney,
Yes, sir.
have you reviewed the provision that Commissioner Seipel has said?
Under 32.197,
Yes.
subsection A, yeah, we wrote it, so the answer is yes.
Okay, I will ask you again. Does this ordinance trigger sunshine?
It can potentially trigger sunshine. It would be a sunshine board.
I'm asking you, could the activities of these young people, how would the activities of these young people trigger sunshine if they are not communicating directly with commissioners at a public forum?
In our legal research that Jacob and I both conducted in the context of trying to separate out that question from the facts here, the answer is that under subsection A, we clearly designate the Youth Advisory Board to be advisory in nature to the commission. It's just simply a mechanism to get to the commission through the administration, through staff, to help them because of their age, their ability to meet, et cetera.
Sir, I'm so very sorry to interrupt you. You know my respect and fondness for you is limitless.
Yes.
I know you're trying to answer my question, yet you have not. I'm going to ask you again. In what ways could this particular ordinance create a sunshine violation on the young people?
Under the statute, if I may, Mr. Mayor, to the Commissioner, if two or more members of an advisory board communicate with each other outside of a public meeting and essentially make decisions without the benefit of the public having a right of access and minutes being kept, it's a violation of the state statute.
So while the reporting solely to staff portion mitigates against the sunshine violation, it doesn't eliminate their duty between them.
That is correct.
And my last question to you is, does this provision, we're dealing with minors here, inform the parents of the participants that their young people will be, Does this ordinance, we're dealing with minors here, identify to the parents of these young people that the sunshine law applies, and if they violate sunshine by speaking to members of their board, that is potentially a criminal violation? Will the parents be advised of this?
City Attorney?
The answer is that there are specific express legislative findings in the ordinance, which is not untypical of any ordinance that you as legislators adopt. And one of the findings, which is made part of the ordinance, is that it does expressly cite to the Constitution. It cites to the statute, Chapter 286. It also cites to the obligation and the intent of this commission to make sure that these young people are educated like any other advisory board as to what the Sunshine Law states.
I'm asking whether the parents will be informed that their young person, by virtue of their participation in this city forum, if they don't follow the guidance, which is that they are not to speak to their fellow board members about the business of the youth council, that could be a criminal violation. I'm not finished.
Let me interrupt.
I need the answer
Let
from
me
the attorney.
interrupt 1 minute. City Attorney,
Yes, Mayor.
like any board, there'd be bylaws, they'd be explained to the right, about what that board is about and what the legalities are?
Yes, Mayor, but if you permit me to answer the commissioner's question, because he's actually asked a subset question, which is not reached by the ordinance, which is there anything expressly provided for in the document that you would adopt as legislation to advise the parents? The answer is no.
Okay, I would like to make a motion.
Before you do, I may have an answer for you.
Okay.
Mayor, if I could?
Go ahead.
There is also in the backup that I included for you all to review.
Right.
There were youth council applications.
Right.
And all of them require parental permission.
Yeah, but
So
none of them
it's
talk
all-
about sunshine.
So hold on. Let me finish what I'm trying to say.
Go ahead.
That require parental consent
Right.
for their child to be on this. There certainly could be a reference there at the parental consent portion of language that you are talking about, if that is a more comforting place for you.
It is.
I would only do that out of consideration for your desire to be comfortable.
And I appreciate it.
But I do have to say that personally, I think it's a bit of an overkill, because I believe I have more faith in what our young people are going to be able to do and understand. And Mr. City Attorney, Mr. Lauren, I have asked this question. If I've asked it once, I've asked it, I know, a lot, that they would, he or his staff, that attend every other board meeting that we have and advise board members at least once a year, and certainly anytime they have new members come on board, give them the Sunshine Law speech, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I'm talking about the parents.
So for me, that is my comfort level and my trust in our youth, that we are looking to be our future leaders. Come on, let's just move on with this and let them do it.
So I'd like to, I'm almost with you. If we can.
You vote against it, vote against it.
No, hold on.
All right, folks,
We're almost there.
we got other people who want to speak.
So
Let's go.
I'd like to make an amendment so that I can join you all in this. I'd like to make an amendment that, in the student application, what the parent has to sign, that there be a reference that the Sunshine Law applies, and violation of the Sunshine Law can be a criminal violation.
Potentially.
Point of order, Mayor?
Go ahead, Commissioner Seifel.
City Attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
My colleague is asking to make an amendment. Is that necessary, or can I, as this is my item, my issue, just bring forward an offer to add that language?
It's our ordinance.
It would be the commission's ordinance. So it is your proposal, but it's the commission's ordinance. To the extent that a commissioner would seek to amend it by motion, that is certainly legally doable. What I'm hearing, your conversation at the moment so far appears to be driven more towards the application process than to the actual body of the ordinance.
Correct. It's the application process only, and I'm looking.
So that if there is
Fine, I'm good. I'm good.
So that's my amendment, if we could vote on the amendment.
What's your amendment?
My amendment is to include language in the application that the parent would have to sign that advises the parent that a violation of sunshine is potentially a criminal violation, and that this board is subject to the Florida Sunshine Law. That's my motion.
Yeah.
Second.
Who seconded it?
Yep.
Who did?
I did.
Commissioner Good seconded? Okay, on discussion on the amendment.
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Can we get some clarification? I don't want the sunshine to be buried in the fine print. If we're going to advise parents of what the sunshine law is, I think it needs to be a fairly self-evident document that's separate from the application, so that the application is not complete unless the second form is filled out that basically provides statute, the Sunshine 286, and that the parent and the student understand what the law is. Clearly, our city attorney will give the youth council the speech on the first night, but I think they need to know what it's going to be going in, and if we're going to advertise this, we also need to include that sunshine law with an asterisk or something like that on the website, that the board is subject to the Florida Sunshine Law, so that everyone who's going into it knows what it is. Now, I would also say, Mayor, that I embrace Commissioner Seipel's statement that we need to trust our kids. The message should not be, we have no faith in you. I think
No one said that.
I think the parents want to see their kids get involved in civics.
Okay.
So I'm happy to support the item on this is first reading. I'm happy to support it, but I think that the document just needs to be clear what the sunshine law is going to be and what they're going to be doing.
City
Yeah,
Attorney,
I have a question for City Attorney.
Before I recognize Commissioner Good,
I'm sorry.
the advisory board, if we do pass it, will be given instruction on how to participate as an advisory board member, correct? City Attorney?
That is correct.
And in that explanation, they'll be given the law as well? About sunshine?
The ordinance requires it. It requires periodic education.
That I'm very comfortable with.
It is in the ordinance. It's part of your legislation.
Point of clarification, Mayor, we're talking about the parents' sign-off. We're talking about minors here, and I want the parents to know.
We didn't recognize your item yet, Commissioner Castillo. Commissioner Good wants to speak.
My motion was made
I
and
didn't recognize
seconded,
the motion.
and you misunderstood my motion.
I didn't, okay. Commissioner Good, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I think we have the amendments on the floor, and I just wanted to speak to the main item.
Go ahead.
No, I'll wait until the amendment, then
All
I'll
right,
speak to the main
any
item.
discussion on the amendment? Redo the amendment, City Clerk, please.
The amendment included, a motion was made to amend the main motion, that language be added in the application that the parents would have to sign off.
They'd have to consent to the application of their minor children.
All right, that's the amendment. Any
No,
further
that's not the amendment. The amendment was to include
City
language.
Clerk, is that the amendment? City Attorney, is that the amendment?
I'll defer to the clerk.
City Clerk, is that the amendment?
It is
Yes.
not the amendment.
City Clerk, can you play it back?
That language in the application be included, that parents would have to sign off.
Okay.
What language?
Okay, hold on.
Commissioner Good, go ahead.
Hold on.
That the parent would have to
What
sign.
language?
Because
That they
The mayor wants to obstruct my motion, so I'm trying to make it clear.
I did not.
Okay, so
First of
here's
all,
the
you're
motion.
not
The motion,
recognized
the motion is
City Attorney,
the application.
is we have an
The
amendment on the
language
floor.
about
I did not
sunshine.
recognize Commissioner Castillo for a motion. We're discussing the amendment. Am I correct?
Not exactly. The amended motion on the floor by Commissioner Castillo, seconded by Commissioner Good, relates to the application, which I believe is on the floor for discussion as we speak.
Correct.
That item.
Correct.
So
Commissioner
if I can clarify the motion. The motion was to include language in the application that the parent must sign, that this board is subject to the sunshine law, and that the sunshine law carries potentially criminal violations.
Well, it can't say criminal because the city attorney just said that there are civil, which is not as.
Well, we could
So
say.
then let's not make it, let's not make it the end of the world as hard as it can be.
I agree, let's say it the right way.
Folks, we're gonna be orderly here.
We are.
All right. We
I will live with the city attorney's description of the
Mayor and
sunshine.
I
Commission.
thought the city attorney said it very good.
Mayor, may I restate what I said earlier, just
Go ahead,
just to clarify for the record? The statute unequivocally provides for either civil or criminal penalties depending upon the facts that surround the
I'll
violation.
live with that language.
That is the
So long
language
as
in the
it's in the
statute.
application, the parent signs. That's the
Commissioner Good,
motion.
go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, again, I just want to speak to the main item.
Go ahead.
I want us to dispense with the amendment so that I can move to the main item.
Move the amendment, please.
It was, and I seconded it.
Commissioner Good seconded Commissioner Castillo's motion
So let's vote on the amendment.
Vote on the amendment.
on the amendment.
Gotta get a roll call. City clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Good?
Yes?
Vice Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Seifel?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on the main item, if I may speak?
Yes.
You what?
So I'd like to speak to the main item now.
Go ahead.
As amended.
So, as amended, through all this conversation, thank you, it was really actually very helpful. The thing I think I'm picking up out of this, if I'm not mistaken, is that we are basically going to be isolated from the youth advisory group as a commissioner.
I don't think so.
All the language I'm hearing here about, it going exclusively through staff means, and if there's a direct communication between commission and one of the youth advisory, is there potential for a sunshine violation on that?
City clerk?
Because that's the gist of the conversation I just heard.
If I may respond, Mayor?
Go ahead.
The process set forth in the ordinance suggests and requires that the appointments to the board are made by the school principals of the five schools. They're not your appointees. You, as a member of the city commission, can speak with a member of that advisory board. You didn't appoint them, they're appointed by the school principals. To the extent that two or more of them, it's not the violation that you would conduct unless you're acting as a conduit, it's their potential violation, not yours. So the caution that we always provide to public officials in the context of those communications, not to be a conduit, not to say, I'm speaking on behalf of the commission or I'm speaking on behalf of two of your colleagues. One has to be careful, one has to be thoughtful, one has to follow the statute. So to the extent that you raise that concern, it would have to be a concern, but you could have a conversation with a member of the advisory board. The meetings are absolutely unequivocally public, and let the record reflect that. There's no intention by the commission to isolate you from a public meeting.
I'm not speaking about a public meeting, I'm speaking about having a one-on-one conversation with one of these members of the
And you
board.
could.
You could.
And you can legally do that, Commissioner.
And so is there a reason why we can't not appoint them then? Is there a reason for that?
What's
Can
that?
I answer, Mayor?
Go ahead.
The reason was, again, this is the majority of the cities that I spoke to throughout the state. I've been working on this for a few years now. Spoke to, that was how they did it. That's how they recommended doing it. That they felt that, as I said in when I spoke earlier, that they felt that the school principals, school administrators knew the students better than perhaps we did, and also knew, because this takes time to be an active board member for this, to really do it. And they were able to select, if you will, students that they knew that first had a desire to do so, but also had time management and were able to do that. And it was not ever, at least in my part, it was never in my intention that we would cut off on that. It was just, I didn't feel like we needed to totally reinvent the wheel when it had been so successful for so many years, done in this particular fashion, and trying to answer all of the questions of the legality and the sunshine and all that. And when I spoke with city manager and also with Ms. Sorensen, because it was first written in here, something about them talking to Parks and Recreation, that seemed to be like the perfect fit because of them getting involved in events that happen throughout the whole year at the city, that they could certainly be a big participant with them through
Yes,
that.
Mr. Mayor, so I'm not objecting to a lot of these other things that you spoke to. I'm just speaking to the fact, first and foremost, the principals are not doing the appointments. This is identified in 32-196, Section C, where they are only making a recommendation and the city manager is making the appointment. So I'm sitting there looking at that and saying, well, why can that not be the commission making the appointment to serve on the board? Secondly, on top of this is that, you know, we have boards and I like the idea, trust me, don't get me wrong, I like this youth advisory board. I mean, I really like to engage it and connect with it. But just like with our other boards, you know, I want to be able to allow this commission to give them sort of tasks or projects ourselves. I mean, we've done that with other boards before, where we said we have these issues, for instance, the cultural, my mind is a little stretched here right now, but we have actually asked other board people who stood before us and given them a task and asked them to expand on it and come back and advise us on what they think. So I'd like to, I mean, none of that is in here. It doesn't say anything about what the commission can do. So for me, I'm missing, what I'm missing is sort of like, you know, like a board. You know, we make the appointments to them. Yeah, we take the recommendations from all the principals. They continue to work with staff as it's all referenced here. I just think that as we appoint other board members, there's no other board that's appointed by anybody but us.
Correct.
Right.
And again, first, I have a question for City Attorney. City Attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
The way this is set up right now, could the City Commission directly or through the board liaison, Parks and Rec, whoever that would be determined to be, offer up a task, request a task from this board?
City Attorney?
The answer is yes.
Okay, so we have that ability to be able to do that.
All right, let's get back on.
As far as, I want to answer a second question. I'm sorry, Mayor. He asked about the appointment process. And every single city that I spoke to said that they did it this way because they didn't want anything to be politically seen, and that was their answer.
Right.
That was their answer for that.
Right.
And so I, again, just trusting on what I'm hearing from them over the years of how they've done it, how it was successful.
All right, let's see what the board,
why I
let's
did
see what the
that.
commission wants to do. City Clerk, we need to.
On the main motion as
The
amended,
main
Mayor.
motion as amended.
Commissioner Stichel?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Good?
I'm gonna give a weak yes on this.
A week, yes?
A weak
Is that in the
yes.
phone book?
Motion passed.
Means it's
All right, thank you.
Go ahead.
Good discussion. Item 18.
Mayor, just if I can, I feel compelled if you'll permit me, Mayor, just for one moment of time to Commissioner Good, just to correct and to clarify, your reading of the ordinance is correct. And what it does say is that the commission does not make the appointments and the principals shall appoint. So you are correct. I don't mean to suggest that whatever debate you've had this evening, I don't want the record reflected, you're not accurate. You are accurate. That's what it says.
Sam, I'd like to see the amended application on second reading, please.
I have not prepared it, but we can certainly make that available to you.
All right,
Thank
City
you.
Attorney?
Yeah.
18, please.
Well, yeah, we haven't prepared one because it doesn't exist yet. That's.
Well,
Yeah.
just put it together.
18, please.
Although it's theoretically there with,
Well, wait, we can sit here 5 minutes and let them do it.
18, please.
I'd like
yeah,
to see it.
Mayor, proceed, Mayor.
Yeah.
Okay, just if I can, the ordinance you just adopted on first reading will be considered on October the 5th in these chambers
Thank
for final second reading. Item number 18 is a motion to adopt proposed resolution number 2022 R15, which is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, approving the plat note amendment that is called a delegation request for the Duke Pembroke A plat for the approximate 17.3.17 acre parcel of property generally located east of I-75 between Pines Boulevard and Pembroke Road, and more particularly described in Exhibit A, providing for 147,414 square feet of office use on parcel A1 and 30,000 square feet of office 6,000 square feet of bank with drive-through and 125 hotel rooms on parcel A2, providing for conflicts, severability, and providing for an effective date. Item 18 on the floor. Thank you.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Castillo, is there a second? Is there a second? I'll second the motion. I just want to explain, just let the commission know as well, I just found out the other day, the nursing school, and on 145th that we cut the ribbon for, it's closing. They couldn't get enough nurses. So I just want to make everybody know that.
Where was it at?
Okay.
Unfortunate.
The nurses' home on 145th, the big building.
Yeah.
Yeah, they took it over, but it's gone. Okay, go ahead, city clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Commissioner Seipel?
No.
Commissioner Good?
No.
Vice Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
For the record, Mayor and Commission, permanent number for item number 18 is 3805.
Thank you, sir. Item 19, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Number 19, last on the agenda, the regular agenda, is a motion to adopt proposed resolution number 2022-R16, which is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, approving the plat note amendment. That's a delegation request also for the Duke Pembroke B plat for the approximate 18.68 acre property generally located east of I-75 and north of Pembroke Road, is more particularly described in Exhibit A, providing for 177,000 square feet of office use on parcel A, 165,000 square feet of office use on parcel B, and 350 mid-rise units on parcel C, providing for conflict, severability, and finally providing for an effective date. Item 19 on the floor, Mayor and Commission. Thank you.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Castillo, is there a second? Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Can I have Mr. Stam come down?
What's that? Well,
Is it just my mic or where I'm sitting?
We need to buy a new mic so I can hear you.
Huh? Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Stan.
Mr. Stam, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
We've had a lot of discussion tonight about development in this city, and traffic in the city, but what we didn't hear about was a comprehensive plan for this city and the economic driver of the city and the tax revenue that, this parcel, we're relying upon to pay our bills, to pay our police officers and our firefighters and your staff. Is there anything objectionable by staff, why we should not approve this item tonight?
Mike Stam, Assistant City Manager, Planning and Economic Development Director. The items 18 and number 19 are consistent with the rezoning applications that the commission approved a couple meetings ago. This is the next step in the process. A site plan will follow shortly thereafter. It's my recollection those projects were approved unanimously. Again, this separates the plats, but this plat is really creating an A and a B, but just separating them and putting the items that were consistent with the rezoning and the design guidelines on the plats.
Okay, I thought it was unanimous when it came forward, and now we're splitting them. So there were some commitments made. There was a lot of discussion about electric plug-ins and bushes and walkways. All that was included in this.
Those
item,
items are in the rezoning. This is the actual plat where the square footage goes on the plat itself.
So the developer agreed to everything that we asked for?
They were approved during that meeting, correct?
Right, no, I'm saying, but we approved, the developer committed to all those things, and yet we can't get unanimous support. I'm gonna support the item tonight. I just had to ask you a question, because my memory on this one, I thought this was a slam dunk, but, then again, we have traffic, so I guess anything with traffic is gonna be a no vote going forward. So I'm supporting this one tonight, sir.
Okay, further discussion. Call the roll, please, City Clerk.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Commissioner Good?
No.
Vice Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Seipel?
No.
Motion passes.
Okay,
And for the record, Mayor and Commission, that number is, oddly enough, 3806.
okay. We're now on the reports of the league. We have a Florida League meeting coming up next week. We've had a,
Committee meeting a week after that.
what's that?
I've got committee meetings, legislative committee meetings.
I'm not done yet.
I'm sorry, Mayor, sorry.
You know what, you're right.
I'm sorry.
You're right, Commissioner Seipel.
Are you done?
I'm only kidding. Okay, manager? Hey, city attorney?
No items, Mayor.
Hey,
Mr. Mayor.
we're done.
No, Mr. Mayor, I want to be able to, you go so smoothly and so quickly, I'd just like to make a quick report as well for the solid waste, disposal stuff there.
You didn't tell me that. I heard a disturbing thing today
You're very quick.
I heard a disturbing thing today, we're gonna have to go back to recycling.
No.
Well, I heard.
So I just want to report that, the solid waste working group has finally gotten to a point that I believe, a interlocal agreement will be presented, at a meeting of all the delegates next week. It's scheduled for Tuesday at, 9 o'clock at Sunrise. So I just wanted you all to know that something's coming, and if you're interested in listening in, it'll be the introduction of the interlocal agreement for all municipalities for solid waste disposal district.
So Mayor,
Explain quickly where we are, because Beam Fur today told me that it wasn't like we thought it was gonna be originally. The city's gonna have to come back and take some part of that. Is that,
I know that the county wanted to change the rules today, and the majority vote was, no, we're gonna continue to move forward with the interlocal agreement that we've been working on over the last several weeks, or several years, in a sense.
What do they want to change to?
They wanted to remove the disposal component out of the interlocal agreement. Sort of the disposal component out of the interlocal agreement. It was the work of 2 years, so.
How do you do that?
It was not accepted.
Mayor,
Mayor?
so Commissioner Good, I think we dealt with this in April, maybe early May, that there was a question whether or not September was realistic. Sounds like they're back on track and scheduled as far as what's gonna be coming back to us. Is that your understanding?
What we were talking about last time was the waste generation study. And no, that's not on track, in my opinion, but, but that's something totally different. That's just something that tells us what we have, how much we generate, so there can be some understanding about creating financial numbers.
So
This here is the actual interlocal agreement that ties us all together as a, independent district for disposal.
But don't we need the study to find out if it
Yeah, that's
benefits
gonna-
us before we
Yeah,
join?
and so, if I may, so there was provisions in the interlocal agreement that took that into consideration, because what it did was it said basically, if you all like most of the terms here, we can join, we can create the district, and then what happens is that there will be a point where a master plan is gonna be put together, which is what pulls in those financial numbers. And if the cities don't agree to that master plan, which will define all those financial obligations on top of other commitments that we would have to make, then the city can choose to pull out at that point.
And what's the over-under as far as, of the 31 cities? Does it have to be, I mean, at what point, what's the breaking point? How many cities have to participate in order for it to hold together?
So I believe, I don't want to be quoted, I know it's in the interlocal agreement, but it's a very high percentage. I think it was up around 80 to 90%.
Can I ask,
And we're gonna give the star back that we had to buy for $2.
can I ask, Mr. Dodge, are you well briefed on these events, of late?
Carl Kennedy is my representative. He attends all of the meetings, and he briefs me, he gives me a summary.
I'll get with you guys after the meeting.
And if I may.
Are there any documents that describe
Yes.
these events?
Yes, and
Can we
Mr. Dodge,
distribute them?
Mr. Dodge has probably the one less version of the most latest interlocal agreement
I do.
available to
I
him.
do not have the one they're presenting at the
No,
next week's meeting.
Today, what happened today is you don't have that, what happened
You were
today.
there today, Carl?
Hmm?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion second. All in favor, aye? Done. Or did you already know that?
Nothing published yet.
Good job, honey. Good job, honey. Mr. Cycle, good job. Sunset.